Oh, that song will never not hit. Doesn't matter if we're in the playoffs, not in the playoffs. It will always be, in my opinion, the greatest intro in radio history, for as far as I'm concerned. I've heard a bunch of them. That gets me every time. Good morning. Welcome in. Ben and Woods, 97.3 The Fan. I wanted to thank you guys for being here for us. As much as you tell us we're here for you, you guys are here for us as well. And in these weird times, certainly, where, the team is out of it, there's still baseball going on. So nice to see familiar faces pop into the chat early, be active on Twitter and social media, the phones, everything that we need from you guys. You guys always deliver. So thank you for that. I'm Woodsy. That's Paul Reindl. He's the executive producer. Good morning, Paulie.
Hey, how are you?
Doing great. Ben Higgins, your friendly neighborhood sports anchor, golfer extraordinaire. Got a little shot a little 81 yesterday. Feels good to get back on the horse.
Let's call it the silver lining to the Padres playoff exit.
You're 81?
I mean, it's a big dark cloud, obviously. But
right.
The silver lining is that...
Was that you shot an 81?
Well, I got a day off yesterday, which I would not have had.
You would not have had.
And, I was able to play golf for the first time in almost a month and actually played pretty well, which is almost frustrating because I'd been working so hard on my game during the summer and just constantly got worse. Like every single month I got a little bit worse. The more I worked, the worse I got.
Yeah.
And then shut it down for a month, focused on the playoffs, just working pretty much every day, pick up the clubs for the first time, really, and then play a lot better. And it's like, all right, this is, we sit here and we talk about, professional athletes. I'm not a professional athlete, but it's always, what else can he do to get out of this slump? Work harder, do this and do that. And
sometimes it's nothing.
And then personally, I have the experience. Yeah, I worked really hard on my game all summer long, and I just kept getting worse and worse. And finally I got, all right, I don't have time for it. Don't do anything for a month and play much better when I actually do finally get back to it.
That is a silver lining, I would say, because I personally was a little bummed when I woke up this morning.
I think a lot of the tier ones
that we're not getting ready for Game 3 of the NLCS,
Yeah.
But at least Ben got to.
Well, that's what's a silver lining. There's obviously the giant dark cloud. There's a tiny little lining around the cloud that is a positive that goes with the big, much more large negative. That's the expression. That's how it works.
For you.
For me.
Right.
My silver lining.
Oh, I thought you meant I thought all the tier ones were going to be like, oh, thank God. Thank God. It hurt, but now it hurts a little bit less because I'm just glad that Ben got a round of golf.
It's my personal. You probably all have one out there as well, a silver lining. What's your silver lining to the Padres playoff exit?
I will tell you, and we talked about this off the air the other day, man. Finished up some production on Monday and walked out to the elevator together. And I said, any sense of relief? And Ben said, yeah, I'd be lying to you if I didn't say that there was a small sense of relief. And I said, yeah, it's a weird, I don't know that it was relief because that would imply that you were like relieved that they're out of it, right? But I did wake up Saturday and realize, okay, so I love, that's the thing is don't conflate this with I don't love broadcasting. I love it more than anything in the world. It's the best gig ever. But that day I was supposed to go into work and do a show with you had they won. The next day I had to fork out, God only knows, for a ticket or two to the game and then figure out how to get into the game last night. We're talking a couple grand here. It saved me. I would do it in a heartbeat though. But there was just that sense of like, I don't have to stress about this anymore. And the games themselves were just horrific. They're horrifically stressful. And it really took a toll on me. My wife said to me the other day, she goes, you haven't really been in your normal routine of walking and working out and stuff. I go, my quote was, and it laid her out. I go, look, I have never taken care of myself during the playoffs, and I never will. That was my quote. And she started dying laughing. I go, I'm unable to be the normal me. She goes, you really are a PRIC during the playoffs. And I said, yeah, I really am. I'm snippy. I'm snappy. Again, I've said it many, many times. The only way I prefer to watch the playoffs is in a cabin by myself, locked away, where I can scream and yell and break stuff if I have to. So in that sense, yeah, there was a little bit of like, all right, man, I can get back to being a, semi-decent father and husband and coworker and everything else. It was But it still hurts,
Yeah,
man.
well, I mean,
it definitely
the
does.
playoffs get us all out of our routines. I mean, when we
big
talked to
time.
Jesse yesterday, he said, "Yeah, I got to get back to my exercising," and it's not that we wouldn't have happily delayed it all for a couple more weeks to see the Padres get to and win the World Series. That would have been the best, the absolute best. But talking about silver linings, yes, the games were very stressful. We build our lives around them every day. Even the off days seem to be just built around looking ahead to the next day.
Yep.
For me, obviously, it does mean a lot of extra work in terms of, extra days at TV, extra days at radio. Who knows what kind of travel might have been involved.
The unknown, too, of like, where are we going to be? Do we need to be somewhere? Are people going to come? Like, it's a lot, man. But listen, I traded all for a World Series in a heartbeat.
Of course.
Today, and one of the guys, I mean, look, today is actually National Bosses Day. So we need to give a shout out to our bosses. We have two bosses. One is Michael Valenzuela. Michael, happy Bosses Day to you. Michael recently, he's a very thoughtful guy. He heard me talking on the air about my sleep issues, and he uses a mouthpiece. So he actually went and ordered me a mouthpiece, and I got it. I did the molding and everything. Doesn't work. I can't sleep with it. So thank you for the effort. It didn't work. I'm sorry. Michael, I fear there's no hope for me, but I
thought maybe the mouthpiece would be good for you because you like chewing on things normally.
So what I do, here's what I do. At night, I get in bed, I put it in my mouth, I chew on it furiously, then I spit it out right before I go to sleep.
Wow.
So I do use it, but I just can't sleep with it because the spit pools in your mouth. You're like this. So you're laying there, you got your mouthpiece in, and you go. And if you roll over on your side, the spit just runs out the side of your mouth.
Are you a side sleeper anyway?
I'm a side sleeper and a face
doesn't
sleeper.
the spit drool out anyway?
No.
I hate that when you're sleeping and you wake up in a pool on your pillow of your own
it doesn't happen to me.
spit that's just dripped out. That doesn't happen.
No, it does if I have the mouthpiece in. So, Michael, thank you for being a great boss. Thank you for always caring about us. I really do appreciate it. Now, let's get to our other boss. Adam R. Klug. I told you guys about the phone call I got from him the other day, didn't I? So he calls me. And
you get many phone calls from them. They all run together.
They all do. So he calls me the other day. Adam R. Klug does. He says, hey. I go, hi. Just wanted to thank you for all your hard work. No problem. Your creativity. Yeah, no problem. How much you care. Yeah, that's no problem. It's the job. I love it. Is that it? Actually, no, it's not it. I go, what is it? He goes, I don't. He tried to bread me. This SOB. He goes, I don't get much involved in your content. I go, that's debatable. All right, number one, that's debatable. You always have some sort of comment about our content. He goes, but I was listening this morning and I thought you went a little too far when you talked about the Dodgers players bumping wieners. I go, on what planet is that too far? He goes, well, I'm thinking about like kids in the car. I go, well, they did it. He goes, what do you mean? I go, they did it. They bumped the tips of their wieners together. And after Kike hit a home run, he goes, I've not seen that. I go, hold on. I said, you didn't see that celebration? He goes, no. And I go, the whole planet saw it, including the little kids that you're so concerned about it. They all saw it on TV. I didn't see it.
It was just like a fist bump or
but
an elbow
your dong,
bump, but they did it with
their dongs.
groinal regions.
Yeah, they just went and So, but we all saw it. Everybody on the planet
absolutely
saw it.
happened.
So he goes, I just think that's a little. I go, Adam, I'm literally editorializing. What was I supposed to say? Penis? They bumped their penises together. I actually tried to dumb it down for little kids by saying wiener. So I go, they did it. I go, hang on. Are you on your phone? All right. So go furious, because of course I have it saved. Of course I have it saved in my phone. I go, give me 3 seconds. So I send it. He's got an Android, so it takes 15 minutes. So finally it comes through. He goes, just like this. Oh, I take it back then. I go, dude. Do you really think that I made that up? I wouldn't just make it up. Like, you can't make stuff. It literally happened. So He's like, oh, wow. I go, yeah, it was very jarring. It was jarring to everyone.
I don't care how they want to celebrate.
I don't
think
either.
I think it looks kind of dumb, but that's fine. It's how they do it as a team, whatever they want to do. What drives me crazy is still every Dodgers fan still in my social media
they're
chat
all you, dude.
just talking about, well, I mean, if the Padres weren't just so obnoxious,
Right.
then there would be no reason to complain. I'm like, the Padres
You're watching
are the
this.
team that is obnoxious. You don't watch your own team. No one understands that to other teams, your team is just as obnoxious as every other team.
But you do it the right way. Right. And that's the thing that makes me sometimes feel like I'm living in a sim. You know, when I see it, I'm like, are we watching the same? We're watching the same thing, aren't we? We're watching the celebration in the dugout. We're watching the dancing, and like, you guys are just gritty, head down, mouth shut guys. I don't think so. Which, by the way, it's okay that you're that way. It's absolutely okay. But you can't. You can't also say that we're different when we're really not. So that I'm with you, Benny, 100%. The other thing I've realized too, the Dodger fans they get real mad about one thing and one thing only. When you watch their games, they don't want anybody but them watching or commenting on their games. They hate it that you're watching. Now, we happen to cover baseball for a living. That's what we do. We're going to talk about baseball. If there's baseball on, we're talking about it. So just know going in tonight, I'm absolutely going to watch the games tonight because that's what I do. I watch baseball, and I'll comment on them. Good, bad, ugly, whatever. But, Adam, happy Boss's Day to you. Thank you for admitting that you were wrong and I was right.
By the way, Adam's silver lining, he took yesterday and today off, I believe.
He did. That's his silver lining.
Silver lining the exit for the playoffs.
I wanted to wish him a happy Boss's Day in person, but I guess I can't.
Not going to be here.
Because he's not here. So, anyway.
It's funny, I knew it was National Bosses Day because yesterday I put it on the rundown in the afternoon when I was getting a little bit of work done. And then about 4:30, my wife came home from work. And she goes, hey, do you have $20 on you? I go, yeah.
Yeah.
Here you go. Gave her a $20 bill. She goes, thanks. It's National Bosses Day tomorrow. And I go, you're going to give her a 20?
Yeah, fresh 20, cash.
Like,
always a good gift.
Is this a Seinfeld episode? And she goes, no, Vivian's going to get coffee. I'm chipping in for coffee for all of our bosses. I go, oh, that's perfect.
The chip in.
The chip-in.
Chip-in's
here's a nice, cool $20.
Here's $20?
But the idea of we just give Adam and Michael each $20.
I've got in my wallet, I've had it for a while, I've got a $100 bill. I'm not giving it to either of them.
No.
Neither of them are getting my
$100
what I have today.
I got one of them if you guys want to cover the other.
Just go put a 20 on.
I got a couple 20s.
Go put a 20 on Michael's desk. We could put it on Adam's, but he's not here.
He's not here.
He's not going to be here.
Although if he's listening right now,
be there tomorrow.
he may surprisingly show up today.
Wait, did you really leave it on my desk? Fine, I'll come in. This guy's unbelievable.
I'll be right
Lord.
there.
I'm fine. I'm coming. It's so good. Well, enjoy your day off, Adam and Michael. I'm sure we'll see you around here. Thank you guys for being excellent bosses and letting us, have fun at your expense sometimes.
We'll set the menu on still a Big League Wednesday, even though Padres season is done. Baseball season does continue, and we will have our usual guest. We'll tell you all about it when we come back. Kelly's got traffic, and then we are off and running on a Wednesday. Good to have everybody here. Tier 1s, thanks for getting up early with us. Paulie, Woodsy, I'm Ben on San Diego's #1 sports station, 97.3 The Fan.
All right, here we go.
Black 17 on.
That is fine. No.
All right, hit me.
Hamul Casino. Fun above all else.
All right, here we go.
Black 17 on.
That is fine. No.
All right, hit me.
Hamul Casino. Fun above all else.
Had a conversation late in the show yesterday about Kyle Higashioka and the Padres catching situation in 2025. We're going to continue kind of going through an early look at the Padres offseason questions and moves they may make during the next few months for A.J. Preller as he looks to retool the team for 2025. Today, in our next segment, we're actually going to be focusing on the shortstop position and looking at, Xander Bogaerts. Is he the guy coming back, or do the Padres need to move someone from a different position or sign someone else? But the more I thought about Kyle Higashioka, the more I kind of realized that he's one of the most, I think, important guys to the Padres to try to re-sign. Obviously, there's a price tag on everything, and, you have to make the hard decisions sometimes based on all of your needs. But it really is a position that there's not a lot of options out there, and there's not a lot of internal options, and he did such a good job that feels to me, Woods, like Kyle Higashioka is worth a little bit of a risk based on what we saw from him last season. He's never really gone into a year knowing maybe that he's the starting guy, can kind of mentally prepare for that in spring training. And I don't know which way that goes for Kyle Higashioka, but everything about him has told me he may deserve that opportunity late in his career here to actually be the quote-unquote everyday starter behind the plate for a team.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think I can argue with you there. Yeah, C20 Moreno says he's 34. I think he's actually 35. So, you talk about a risk, but again,
he's not the catcher of the future.
No,
you have your catcher of the future in the minor leagues.
You do.
Be 35 in April.
35 in April. Okay, so 34 right now. 35 when the season starts. Certainly not a death knell for catchers. He's in really good shape. Caught a lot of innings for us this year. Had some big hits for us this year. Handled the pitching staff pretty well. I think the weird late season catcher's interference bit was like the only black mark on his resume as far as I'm concerned. But he seems to fit in really well here. He seems to be really beloved in that clubhouse as well. And while you can't just run back the exact same team that you have this year, you do need to make tweaks. There do need to be some decisions made. I do think that there are some pieces, some of the free agents that are out there that you could bring back. I think he's one of them. For me.
To me, Kyle Higashioka has the temperament to be the kind of catcher that can lead a team on a deep playoff run. Now, I don't think he's ever going to be an all-star.
No.
Behind the plate. He's not going to be one of the best defensive catchers, but he's also not hurting you when he's back there. He's calm, he's steady, hits some home runs, bottom of your lineup, catches a good game, works well with the pitchers. You could do a lot worse than Kyle Higashioka behind the plate.
Yeah, we've seen it.
And, not that I'm asking, Kyle to take, the San Diego quote-unquote discount, but clearly he seemed to thrive coming back to California, from Southern California, seemed to like it here. He probably has a reason to want to stay. Now, he has a bigger reason to want to cash in for as much as he can. This is his probably only chance he will ever have in his career.
Certainly his best chance.
To cash in with a payday. So if someone else goes, we're willing to overpay for Kyle Higashioka, then he's going to have to go.
Sure.
But to me, his value to the Padres is higher than any other team. If he goes anywhere else, he's got to learn an entirely new pitching staff. You got to pretty much start from scratch. You got
he did it here, so
he did it, and he can. But you're gonna have to prove yourself to a new team. You're gonna have to, prove yourself to a new fan base. This is a nice spot for Kyle, and I'm sure that's part of his off-season equation in deciding what he wants to do and where he wants to be in 2025.
Yeah, I mean, I think as long as it's a fair offer, and he talked yesterday about Victor Caratini getting $6 million a year. You saw him in the playoffs hitting in like the 5-hole. I mean, it was just crazy to see. But they needed more offense than they had in Martin Maldonado. So they went out and they got Victor Caratini, who provided a little bit more offense. But Kyle Higashioka, to me, seems a natural fit, a guy to bring back. And a guy that I'm not going to be bummed if they do. I will be pretty bummed. In our mind, too, obviously I see every day the tweets come out about Ethan Salas down playing in the fall league. And the offense is great. It's awesome to see. Here's a double from Salas. Oh, look, this is, another double. He rips a single. It's fantastic. It's the fall league. Jacob Marcy hit, his OPS was like 1,100 in the fall league. So what really excites me is his defense. And in our minds, I think you look at Kyle Higashioka and say, yes, you are the bridge. You're the bridge to Ethan Salas, who will be ready in, if not a year, 2 years. Then it's Ethan Salas' time here. He's going to get a chance to sink or swim. Luis Campusano's still on your roster. I think if you sign Kyle Higashioka, you bring those two cats back. You got Brett Sullivan down there, whatever. You know what I'm saying? Like, you still have a little bit of depth. I believe there's another catcher down there that they like as well. I can't remember his name right now, but they have depth at that position. AJ Preller loves catchers, and he seems to hit on one every year. So that's the thing. But remember when he hit on Gary Sanchez, and they keep giving Campy these chances to earn the position. He never really does. And then they always find a spare part. So maybe that's the plan moving forward, too. He's never really had a problem doing it.
Yeah, I actually get the sense that if Ethan Salas had to catch in the big leagues, for whatever reason,
He could.
that defensively
could.
he probably would hold his own in the big leagues. I do think that he would struggle badly offensively, and not that you can't have a catch. You can have a catcher who's hitting 220. It's fine. I just feel like
Austin Hedges.
I feel like, he might be at the, 150 level with like 2 home runs, and that's kind of a lineup hole that you don't want to have on the big league level. Kyle Higashioka, perfect. You know what? You're going to run into some, 10 to 15 home runs. If he can do that again, 17 this year was probably way beyond expectations, but you get something like that and decent catching, that's not a bad combination.
He's never hit less than 10. Hits 10 every single year. He's like Manny with his 30 homers and 100 RBI. He hits 10 every year. You know you're going to get 10 out of him, and some pretty good defense and a really good clubhouse guy.
All right, we'll look at a little bit at shortstop coming up in our next segment. Talk about Game 2 of the American League Championship Series last night. The Yankees,
a weird one, man.
Seem like they are on the verge. I mean, at this point, whoever wins, Rob Manfred has won. Likely going to be Yankees against either Dodgers or Mets. So
he's elated.
TV ratings will be high. They already are high. Did you see that the Padres Game 5, they came out with that? 7.5 million viewers on Fox, the most watched division series game since 2017. And that doesn't even count. I have no idea what the TV numbers were like in Japan, but people in Japan were saying this is probably going to be the most watched American playoff game ever with Yu Darvish pitching against Yamamoto. So big numbers for MLB. They're very happy. They're rolling in it right now during the playoffs. We're just all going to have to be subjected to the giant markets of New York / Los Angeles the rest of the way. We'll play Take on Woods at 7:10. We got more tickets to Orville Peck at the Cal Coast Credit Union Open Air Theater to give away. Don't do this at 7:20. And then on a Big League Wednesday, we will talk playoffs and more. Adam Jones will join us at 7:35. Bret Boone will make his weekly appearance at 8:35. Paulie's got some Reindl Report headlines. Maybe get a little football. We had another trade of a wide receiver. We talked about Devontae Adams yesterday, and then Amari Cooper got traded later in the day as well. Running back got traded as well, so there's some football news we can get to, and then we'll turn things over to Annie and Elston at 10 o'clock. So there's the menu for you on a Wednesday.
Let's eat, buddy.
All right, we'll come back, and we'll talk about Xander Bogaerts. Is he going to be the shortstop next season? Is he back, or do the Padres need to do something else this offseason? That is coming up next. Bennett Woods on San Diego's #1 sports station, 97.3 The Fan. I was just talking about how maybe Kyle Higashioka a little more important to the San Diego Padres in 2025 than even maybe my first thought was. And all of our thoughts will evolve as the offseason goes.
Certainly.
And, as soon as A.J. Preller makes one move, it kind of changes the equation for what else is coming. But right now, at this moment, I feel like the Padres it would be in their best interest to explore their shortstop options beyond Xander Bogaerts.
Interesting.
And we will discuss that right after a check of traffic here on 97.3 The Fan.
From the 97.3 The Fan Traffic Center, here's Kelly Danick.
Traffic is sponsored by Valvoline Instant Drive-Thru Oil Change, your trusted instant drive-thru oil change. We're getting reports now of a two-vehicle accident northbound side of the 805 just before the 15. Those vehicles are over to the right shoulder. Fortunately, no other trouble spots on our roads. Stop by any of the 30 San Diego Valvoline Instant Oil Change centers. You don't have to get out of your car. It usually only takes 15 minutes or less. Plus, get a free courtesy check of your tires and battery. Visit SoCalOilChange.com for directions and discounts. SoCalOilChange.com. I'm Kelly Danik with Ben & Woods, San Diego's #1 sports station, 97.3 The Fan.
All right, so, clearly Xander Bogaerts is serviceable at shortstop. And, it does make a lot of sense that he can just stay there and then, bide his time for a couple of seasons at short. He's under contract. Xander's not going anywhere. Let's all just accept that fact that one way or another, Xander Bogaerts is likely staying in a Padres uniform and hopefully being a productive member of the Padres for several years to come. And then, Leodalis DeVries, who is the top, internally at least, the top prospect for the San Diego Padres. Ideally, he is on a Jackson Merrill trajectory, and in a couple of years, comes down and, the defense looks like it is on point, and if he can hit from that switch hitting perspective, he becomes your shortstop in a couple of years, takes over for Xander. There's a lot of logic to that. I'm not going to deny it, Woods. I mean, is that kind of the path that you would take if you were A.J. Preller and looking at your shortstop position for 2025/2026?
There's really no way to know, but I do think that that's the one that makes most sense. The one that you can, I guess, explain the easiest, right? You paid Xander Bogaerts a tremendous amount of money, $25 million a year, essentially, to be your shortstop, and probably was an unnecessary move.
I disagree with that.
Can't do anything about it now.
I don't think they paid him to be the shortstop. I think they knew right away that Xander's future with the Padres was not going to be as a shortstop. The future. They had to actually relent and to sign him, say, all right, at least for the first season you get to be the shortstop. But that tells me that from the very beginning the Padres did not see him as a shortstop long-term in the organization.
It's weird that you signed him then. It's weird that you committed that much money to a guy that you were really unsure of what his position was going to be, other than moving him to second base, which was the only way you can describe his move to second base was fine. It was fine. I mean, it was, yes, we tip our hat to Xander for doing that. I know it was not an easy thing for him. You could see the frustration on his face, but one of the guys I think that said, I gotta focus and not, piss and moan about this. I just got to do it. I have to do it. And it was fine. It didn't crush you. It may not have been the best thing for him, numbers wise. And then of course he got hurt when he came back and hit okay. Didn't do much in the playoffs, but look, at the end of the day, he's going to be the square peg in the round hole for a while. You know what I mean? And so we just talked about Higashioka being a bridge for Salas. I think I'm okay with Xander being a bridge for Leo. But again, there's zero proof that Leodalis DeVries is going to be able to come up and be a big leaguer yet. He's just turned 18.
Obviously, there's zero proof, which is even more reason why perhaps it's a better idea to explore other options at shortstop. And the more I think about it, it's possible that Ha-Seong Kim may still be the best option out there for the San Diego Padres. I don't know what he's going to cost. I really don't. I've heard 9 figures potentially for a Ha-Seong Kim deal, and I would have, as I think most Padres fans, even the ones that don't care too much about what the payroll level is, that gives me pause to think about a 9-figure salary for another shortstop. Especially one that has had mixed results offensively for the San Diego Padres in this season and even defensively last year. But I don't think you close the door. I think there should be conversations with Ha-Seong Kim about what it would take to bring him back. Maybe not aggressively going after him early in the offseason, but if he's one of these guys, and we've seen how the free agent market plays out, there will be 2 or 3 giant signings early. And then it'll go quiet, right? I mean, the winter meetings will probably be somewhat dead as they've been the last few years. No one's going to sign over Christmas. It's going to be January all of a sudden. People will start reporting to spring training, and there will still be lots of free agents on the market, good ones. And I get the sense that Ha-Seong Kim might be one of those guys who is looking for that big deal and it's not coming for him in, it's getting to be February, and all of a sudden maybe the price tag changes a little bit and brings the Padres back into the conversation.
Well, if he's a guy that's looking for that big deal that might not come, he certainly hired the right agent in Scott Boras this offseason, which, again, you hire Scott Boras, you're going for the jugular, which he's absolutely within his rights to do. The projections that I saw for him, 5-year deal worth $63 million. That is what? That's about 15 a year, something like that. No, no. I got a guy $24 million that I can put at shortstop right now, and I can go out and use that money to get some other things that I need. I love Kimmy, I do, but you got to make these decisions, I think, and had he been playing lights out defense and hitting before he got injured, Ben, yeah, it's a different story. And if his agent wasn't Scott Boras, it's probably a different story.
Does it make a difference to you? I was just looking up fan graphs and defensive runs saved. And even though he didn't have enough to qualify at the position, if you include all second basemen, Xander Bogaerts was number 6 in the league at second base. He was, metrically at least,
top 10,
a really good second baseman. He was not at shortstop, but a really good second baseman, and that's
top 6. I think is fair.
And that's before he's even had a full year to get acclimated to the position. To me, Xander Bogaerts could be a top second baseman in the league for the next 3 or 4 years.
Yeah, beyond a better than serviceable one for sure.
Which means you either have Xander playing out of position now at shortstop and, struggling. I mean, he probably wouldn't characterize it that way, but I think the Padres would. Xander at shortstop is kind of out of position where they see him. Or you get him and you figure out something at shortstop. So now what are the other options? If you can't sign a free agent, you've got your internal options. You've got Fernando Tatis Jr.
Not an option anymore.
You've got Jackson Merrill.
The Merrill one is very interesting, and it's just sports radio fodder in my mind.
I view him and Tatis kind of in the same. Either they're both able to go back, or neither of them are able to go back.
Because of the injuries that have accumulated in Fernando Tatis Jr.'s body, I think that ship has sailed. Could he do it? Yeah, he could do it. He's a superstar. He could absolutely do it. But I think because of the stress reaction, because of the shoulder, because of all of those things, I think Fernando Tatis Jr. is your right fielder, and it's okay. It's okay. The Dodgers had to finally suck it up and say, we got to get Mookie back out to the outfield, where he's excellent playing right field. It's okay to be a right fielder and be Fernando Tatis Jr. for the rest of your career and try to stay healthy, because we need that kid for 150-plus games. The 2 months off, 2 months injured here and there is tough. You saw what he can do in the playoffs. He is a superstar of epic proportions. Moving him back to shortstop, as much as he would 1,000% sign up for it, the risk versus reward, it doesn't work for me.
I agree with you. I think someone
Merrill
who
at 21,
has had shoulder surgeries, the last thing you want are those dives left and right constantly. Not that he doesn't ever dive in the outfield, but way, way less than you would in the infield. And I think you're right. I think the ship, he's a platinum glove winner in right field.
Correct.
There's so many reasons not to move Fernando Tatis Jr. The only reason to move him is because process of elimination. That's not a reason to move a guy.
No.
I think Jackson Merrill, he has shown the ability to be an everyday posting player already in his career. You could have that conversation about moving Jackson Merrill. You'd have to find someone else to play center field. The last option, you don't want to spend a ton on Ha-Sung Kim or another high-priced free agent. You don't want to move either of your outfielders back to shortstop. You could just try to find a really good defensive, cheap second baseman. The Nick Ahmed types of the world, and go, it's not going to be our best offensive position, but we're going to have a really solid defender at shortstop. We're not going to pay a ton for it, and we're going to hope that we get enough offense out of the rest of our lineup that it's a net positive. And I wouldn't be shocked if the Padres go down that road in 2025 either.
I don't know why you don't just go Manny at third, Xander at short, Croney at second for a while. Like, let Jake Cronenworth play second base.
But Croney's a better first baseman. Xander's a better second baseman. I hate the domino effect of moving people to places where they're not as good on the diamond, when you could have two guys who are in their best places on the diamond and then replace the spot where you really need someone else.
Go get a first baseman.
You could do that as
go
well.
Go get a first baseman. And Jake Cronenworth for $10 million. $10 million, a two-war player, $10 million
in that
a year.
sense, I might play Jake at short then.
Maybe.
Over Xander, if that's the case. I really want Xander at second base going forward.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know, man. And I don't, again, I don't know what this organization is going to do. It would throw a huge monkey wrench into it if they said, all right, Jackson. Like, what if Jackson Merrill, just spitballing here, Jackson Merrill says, yeah, I'd love to re-sign here long-term as a shortstop, which is what you drafted me as. Could he make the transition back to short? No problem.
You know,
21 years old.
When you say that, that sounds really, like prima donna for a guy who's only had one season. But it's absolutely his right to say that. It's his career.
His career.
And it's his life. And if he wants to play shortstop, I promise you there are some teams out there that would happily let Jackson Merrill play shortstop. If, the Padres were willing to trade him to one of those teams, if he wants to be on the Padres, that might not be the avenue, but he doesn't have to sign a long-term contract here. If the Padres
absolutely does not.
Don't want him to play shortstop. Now, he clearly loved playing for the Padres.
Correct. He said, I want to be here forever.
And he said that, but if he did want to play shortstop, you can't get mad at him for going, you know what, I don't want to sign a long-term contract because I feel I'm a shortstop and that's where my future lies. And if the Padres aren't willing to do that, there could be problems. Absolutely. You're right.
I mean, the names out there, free agent shortstops in 2025. Willie Adames, number one. He's gonna get paid. Ha-Seong Kim is number two. Miguel Rojas, hard pass. He is beaten up. Paul DeYoung, Kevin Newman, San Diego guy, I do believe.
The only thing that gives me the most pause from what you guys have talked about over the last 10 minutes was Ben talking about a defensive-minded, weaker offensive shortstop.
You don't want that at short.
We had that in center field, another power position, right up the middle, with Trent Grisham for 3 years.
Yeah, it was horrible.
He was defensive wizard, and he was hovering around 200.
Yeah.
And I kept saying, and I'm so glad we're past that now, because I kept saying championship teams don't have that type of player in the starting lineup for 150, 160 games.
You say that, but they got further in the playoffs with Trent Grisham than they did with this team.
That's true.
And Jackson Merrill at center.
That's true.
Yeah, well, they also had Juan Soto and Blake Snell.
I get it.
And Josh.
No, I
you know what I mean?
get it.
That was
I
a
get
different team.
It was. But you can obviously advance, deep and make a run.
And then what happened in the NLCS? He went completely ice cold.
You gotta, listen, you're gonna have to build your team the way that you want it and the way that you feel is gonna get you the most wins. I just did. It's funny, man. Kyle Bodie, who runs Driveline, tweeted something out the other day, and it's a paper that a guy wrote. Now, me trying to read this was like trying to read Greek. I mean, it is as involved as you could ever imagine. I'll retweet it for the smart people out there. Benny, I think you would actually like it. And what it talks about is potentially positional flexibility being the most important thing for building a championship club. They had the most. Better than pitching, better than relief pitching, better than a super pen, better than this, better than that. Positional flexibility, numero uno. Kyle Bodie has retweeted it like 3 times. Again, I opened this thing and I started reading it. And it was written a while ago. So the names that you'll read in there are not names of guys that are currently playing. But you read it and you go, oh, okay. And, take the numbers and stuff out. I didn't get it. I mean, it was a bunch of equations and stuff. It looked like Goodwill Hunting. But I was reading kind of the finer, trying to read the broad strokes of it. And that's basically what it boils down to is positional flexibility. And not just, he can go play first in a pinch. It's like, no. He's plus here. He's plus here. He's plus here. He's plus here. You saw Dave Roberts doing it the other night, moving guys based on the batter and things like that. Those, again, according to one of the smartest baseball minds out there, that is like the number one thing that you need to build a championship roster.
I mean, it sounds good, but in reality, you're also dealing with personalities.
Sure. That's the
Xander
thing.
Bogaerts has positional flexibility. I'm sure he could play first base if you needed him to. He'd be competent there as well. But does he are you wrecking him when you're doing that? I mean, the move to second base was not an easy one for Xander emotionally, mentally. You know, for him, that's tough. And you've got to have the right kind of players with positional flexibility as well.
So here's what it's called: process flexibility in baseball, the value of positional flexibility. And it was written in 2018. And it's pretty interesting stuff. So, yeah, and one of the another smart guy in baseball wrote, so would you say this is the most important baseball strategy research of the last decade? And Kyle said, yeah. Nuts, right? Like nuts to think about. But that's definitely something that I think they need to think about as they build their roster for next year.
We got a lot of conversations this offseason. That was a good one about shortstop. When we come back, is Aaron Judge going to get locked in? Could that be the ticket to a Yankees World Series title? We'll talk about the ALCS and play a little Take on Woods. Coming up next here on 97.3 The Fan. Let's tell everybody what our friend John Conniff from Mad Friars texted you during the break.
Yeah, Johnny always listened. He said, yeah, don't forget Eggy Rosario. He's 892 OPS in El Paso. He's only 24 years old and can play a bunch of different places. Yeah, I mean, it didn't get enough of a look, I don't think, last year, but that's somebody to look at moving forward, too. Don't know that he's an everyday shortstop type, but again, a guy that can play, 3 positions in the infield? That's pretty solid. Pretty solid guy to have. Also trade bait. So,
yeah, I mean, I think there are always a few prospects that we know of and we don't know of that A.J. Preller has stocked his farm system with, and if any of them come through and start producing regularly on the big league level, that's a huge, unexpected win. I would be surprised if the Padres are planning on Eggy Rosario being a starter out of spring training next year, but he will get an opportunity. I would expect, unless he's traded as part of a package, which is of course always a possibility for AJ as well. But young enough, and got some of that flexibility and hit at AAA. Can he do it on the big league level? Hope so. Yeah, that's, the more homegrown prospects that you can turn into bona fide big leaguers, we see that in other organizations. That is always a ticket to more success. Young, controllable, inexpensive players that you then supplement around with, spend your budget on a couple of big name stars, and that's the path to generally competitive baseball every single year.
I mean, just go look at the Cleveland Guardians lineup right now, and you're looking at it and you're going, wow. I mean, the guys that they have, they're not household names at all. Stephen Kwan is such a delight to watch hit. I mean, what a delight. The guy hits everything, lefties, righties. He's just electric. He's what we want Luis Ariz to be, but he's also a plus defender out there in left field, and he's so fun to watch. But then you got the David Frys and the Rocchios and the guys like that they're up there, man, and they are feet thrown into the fire. It is nuts to see.
Tough one last night for the Cleveland Guardians, including Rocchio, a Gold Glove finalist who dropped a pop-up that led to the Yankees' first run. They added a couple of more in the second inning and forced Tanner Bybee out of the game, and the playoffs, again, are unpredictable, but what you're hoping for is at least when your stars come up with a chance to do damage. And that happened in the second inning last night in the ALCS when the Yankees, the Guardians had the tough decision of having to walk Juan Soto to load the bases in front of Aaron Judge. Meanwhile, when the Guardians later had a chance in the game to get back into it, they got the bases loaded too. You know who came up? Austin Hedges. That's not putting your team in the best position. Now, once in a blue moon, Austin Hedges will hit the grand slam and Aaron Judge will strike out there, but the more times you get Aaron Judge up, eventually he's going to do damage. And while in that second inning he hit a sacrifice fly, later in the game he added a 2-run home run for his first of the postseason as the Yankees went on to the 6-3 win over the Cleveland Guardians to take a 2-0 series lead. And I believe I saw the stat. When you're up 2-0 in a best of 7, you get an 84% chance of going on to win the series. So, Yankees are in extremely good shape as they head to Cleveland for games 3, 4, and if necessary, game 5 of that series.
It was the whole thing has changed for them right now because of Gleyber Torres and what he's done at the top of their lineup. And he's seemingly on every single time, which is great. I mean, that's setting the table for the big guys. And Juan Soto continues to play very well also. I think Stephen Vogt, I don't want to sit and say he made a mistake pulling Bybee so early, but Bybee had good stuff last night. He did. His stuff, he actually got hosed on a call to Soto that was totally a strike. And then a guy dropped the pop fly, and he minimized that damage there. Those guys that got on, did he walk? Did he intentionally walk Soto? How did the two guys get on in front of him? I don't remember.
I don't remember specifically.
It was bath time, and I came in and I went, "Oh God, bases are loaded." And they just walked Soto to get to Judge. Judge hits a sac fly. So it was a little bit. I don't want to say overmanaged because that's how he's done it all year. But we saw
single.
So,
and then Verdugo doubled, and then they intentionally walked Soto.
Yeah, and But we saw the kind of the same thing. They're not messing around with these starters. I mean, Garrett Cole only went 4 1/3. It was laborious, man. They were getting some good swings off on him last night as well. Josh Naylor, 2 really, really solid hits to right field. But yeah, man, I'm watching this last night going, you've really outmanaged yourself in the 3rd inning. And when you have Hedges coming up, because they pinch hit for their catcher, then they don't have another guy that can do it. So Hedges is your guy from the 4th inning on. You're screwed. Guy comes up with the bases loaded, came up the other night to end the game. And it's just like, dude, you start him. If you have 2 catchers, or I think they even have 3 catchers. No, it's him and Bo Naylor, I think. Start Hedges. Start him. So that then, in a situation like that, then you can use a pinch hitter and put Naylor in for defense. I understand you may be sacrificing a little bit defensively because Austin Hedges is still a really good defender. Just start him. Start him. Try to get some runs. I don't understand having nobody left on your bench in a moment like that when you know that guy with his 300 OPS plus is not coming through. It's brutal, and Guardians fans were livid last night.
A couple more thoughts. First, we need a contestant for Take on Woods. We're about 3 minutes away from our game. Call now, 833-288-0973. Want to challenge Woods in our daily musical trivia game for prizes and fun. 833-288-0973. Phone lines are completely open if you've never played. First-timers are always welcomed here on Take on Woods. Give us a call right now, 833-288-0973. I think for the Guardians, they do have a pitching dilemma. So they placed Alex Cobb. He's done. They took him off the postseason roster with back spasms or back issues. So he's out. He can't even come back in the World Series. So they're a little short on starting pitching now. Presumably Matthew Boyd will start Game 3 tomorrow.
Yep.
But then in Game 4, I heard some speculation that one of the reasons that Stephen Vogt took out Tanner Bybee so fast is they may need to bring him back quickly for another game because of their starting pitching issues. So it's possible that the quick hook was done with the thought of, well, this one we're already down. Let's come and bring him back earlier. I don't know that that's really a great recipe for success, but desperate times call for desperate measures, and now I think the Guardians are in desperation mode. They, as you said, they had a chance against Cole. Great job by the Yankees bullpen, though. 4 2/3 shutout innings, including an inning and 2/3 perfect from Tim Hill in that game, who came through for the Yankees.
Bro, they get Clay Holmes up, who was their closer, to get them out of an inning, and everyone on the planet is thinking, well, Clay Holmes is going to come back out. I mean, I think he had to get 1 or 2 outs. And he's rested. Tim Hill pitched last night, gave up 3 straight singles. He starts 2-0 to the first hitter, and I'm like, oh my God, dude, Aaron Boone's about to get murdered. But it worked out. Timmy Hill gets him in order and pops off the mound and just got himself a really nice scoreless inning in the ALCS. Insane.
And obviously, if Judge does get locked in, he hasn't been there yet. That changes the entire equation for the New York Yankees going forward.
Oh, yeah.
And, he's a guy who can completely put the team on his back, like Shohei Ohtani can with the Dodgers. Hasn't really done so yet, but could. And it's always that looming. If you're the opponent of one of those teams, how long can we keep how long can we keep these guys really quiet?
The swing he had with the bases loaded, I thought it was gone. I thought it was 50 rows deep.
The home run I thought was an out.
So did I. I thought that was an out. And the swing he put on with the bases loaded, I went, oh my God, talk about an all-time backfire. And, you look, and they're still in it, man. The Guardians, that game felt like it should have been about 14-0. And Yankees didn't hit with runners in scoring position. The Guardians just could not get it going offensively. Were able to get to Cole a little bit. But, I mean, it was some of the toughest 4 1/3 innings from Garrett Cole I've seen a guy pitch. I mean, he was laboring out there, man. 4 walks, is just that's not great. The Guardians can grind, and they need to find a way to steal a game to keep this thing interesting.
All right, yeah, still a question for you. Still looking for a Take on Woods contestant, by the way. 833-288-0973. Call now. Does this series get back to New York even for a Game 6? The Guardians would have to win 2 out of 3 at home just to get it back to the situation where then they'd have to win both games in New York. That's really the task that's in front of them. That's why it's so hard to come back from 2-0. Yeah, you can take 2 or 3 at home. Absolutely. The Guardians are good enough. They can win a series at home against the Yankees.
Yeah.
But all that does them is get them to a spot where then they have to sweep 2 at Yankee Stadium. They really do have to sweep the next 3 if they want to feel like they've got a really good chance to win the series.
Who's on the bump?
Tomorrow,
Boyd. It's Clark
haven't
Schmidt
announced,
against
but
undecided.
probably, yeah.
Okay.
So we'll see. Probably Boyd, but Clark Schmidt for the Yankees, and I think it probably ends in Cleveland.
I do too.
Probably Game 5, maybe 4-1. I don't know if it'll be a sweep, but I think the Yankees are going to be back to the World Series. First time since 2009 that they have been in the Fall Classic, and that's a long stretch. That's 15 years.
What do you make of the because it's mostly Dodger fans that are saying they're sick because of the easy path to the World Series? Is there an easy path to the World Series? There's an
easier path.
This is an easier one. But
It's
man,
very respectful of Dodgers fans because they're implying that their path has been very hard so far, and the only team they've played so far is the Padres.
That's right. That's right. So, well, they the hottest team in baseball in the Padres allegedly, and then the Devil Magic Mets.
Regardless of how it turned out, I still believe that might be the best series you see all postseason.
That one, Padres
Dodgers.
Yeah,
I think so.
Yeah, I think so too.
100%.
We will we'll have more baseball talk later. Right now, it is time to take on Woods. All right, now everyone's calling in. Let's go with James is our contestant for Take on Woods. It's brought to you by Valvoline Instant Oil Change. It only takes 15 minutes. You don't have to get out of your car. For directions and discounts, go to SoCalOilChange.com. That's SoCalOilChange.com. James, what are you up to this morning?
Oh, just sitting with the 500,000 of my best friends in traffic.
Nice. All right. Well, maybe you can turn that into a prize. We've got some tickets to Orville Peck at Cal Coast Credit Union Open Air Theater on the line today. It's Saturday, October 26th, the show. Limited tickets remain on sale at Ticketmaster.com, and you get to pick our category here. Your 3 choices are on the chessboard, songs that have something to do with chess or chess pieces, Stairway to Heaven, songs with heaven in the title, and Twice as Nice, song titles that have the same word repeated twice. So on the chessboard, Stairway to Heaven or Twice as Nice. James, what will it be?
Let's try Stairway to Heaven.
Stairway to Heaven. All right, I think this one is pretty gettable. With some more assistance from Tier 1 Paul, who has contributed several category ideas recently, not Paul Reindl, but Tier 1 Paul, we've got 5 songs that all include the word heaven in the title, without including that Led Zeppelin classic in our category name. So you'll have 60 seconds. Get as many as you can. If you don't know one, you can pass. We'll come back to it if there's time left. First question's the 2-second song. Paulie's going to play a little music. You need to give me the song title and the artist to score that point. Paulie, I know you got to cue this one up.
I am ready.
You're ready to go? James, are you ready to play?
Oh, hang on.
Let's go.
Hang on. Paulie needs to hang on for a second.
Entire screen
Screens have gone dark.
is gone.
Well, I could just sing the 2-second song.
I've got the 2-second song. I don't have the 60-second timer.
Oh, 60-second timer. Well, I can manually just start my clock here. All right, we can do this. All right, 60 seconds on the clock. James, your time begins when Paul plays the music. Good luck. Let's take on Woods.
Ooh, baby, do you know that's worth?
We'll make heaven a place on earth.
By?
I'll come back to
All
you.
right, which 1987 song from their Kiss Me, Kiss Me, Kiss Me album was the first U.S. hit for The Cure?
Just Like Heaven.
Correct. Which song did Eric Clapton write to help deal with the grief of losing his 4-year-old
Tears in Heaven.
Correct. A cover of which Bob Dylan song appears on the 12-inch single release of Welcome to the Jungle by Guns N' Roses?
Knocking on Heaven's Door.
Correct. The chorus of which 2012 Bruno Mars #1 hit begins with the line, "'Cause your sex takes me to paradise."
Let's go back to
Okay,
that
back to the
first one.
2-second song. You got the title. Who is the artist of Heaven is a Place on Earth? 5 seconds. Time. Sorry. I manual buzzard you. James, you got 3 correct. You got Just Like Heaven, Tears in Heaven, and Knocking on Heaven's Door. Bruno Mars is Locked Out of Heaven, and Belinda Carlisle is Heaven is a Place on Earth. Stay on the line, though. 3. We'll see if that's good enough. Let's bring Woods back in. Am I still on manual clock here, Paulie?
Yeah.
All right.
I just made a phone call. We're working on it.
Technical difficulties, but Woods, we will press on here. James's score is locked in. Woods doesn't get the category, makes it a little tougher. 60 seconds back on my clock. Your time begins when Paul plays the music. Good luck, Woods. Let's take on James.
Heaven is a Place on Earth, Belinda Carlisle.
Correct. Which 1987 song from their Kiss Me, Kiss Me, Kiss Me album was the first U.S. hit for The Cure, reaching the top 40 on the Billboard charts?
Just Like Heaven.
Correct. Which song did Eric Clapton write to help deal with the grief of
Tears
losing?
in Heaven.
Correct. A cover of which Bob Dylan song appears on the
Knocking on Heaven's Door.
Correct. A chorus of which 2012 Bruno Mars #1 hit begins with the line, "'Cause your sex takes me to paradise."
Save that.
You've got 30 seconds here to come up with this answer.
Can you repeat the question?
The chorus of which 2012 Bruno Mars #1 hit begins with the line, "'Cause your sex takes me to paradise."
Save it again. Oh,
20
what's that
seconds
song?
left.
Heaven, something heaven. My Bruno Mars knowledge is very weak.
10 seconds.
Heaven's Taint.
It's Locked Out of Heaven.
Locked Out of. I like
But
that song.
4-3, you sneak out the victory over our contestant James today.
Because
Your
James,
sex takes me to paradise.
Thank you.
He repeats it a few times, if I'm not mistaken, in that song.
Mike.
That still
we will
gets
put
me
the
every
the
time.
prize, the concert tickets to Orville Peck back in the hopper and give them away later in the show. James, thank you for playing, though, and hopefully you make it through the traffic of 500,000 people out there. If you want an update on that traffic, Kelly Danick is standing by for you, and then we'll come back.
Not quite yet.
We can't even do that yet.
No,
Oh,
we're not going to break for a minute.
Oh, so we're just here?
Completely.
Yeah, we're just chilling.
I love it.
Just waiting.
Uncensored. Well, not uncensored, just commercial-free radio right now from Ben and Woods.
For a minute, for
We're
sure.
Vamping.
Yeah.
It's a good category. Heaven.
Yeah, it was called, what was it called? Because your sex
Stairway
takes
to
me
Heaven,
to
yeah.
paradise. I did not use the most popular Heaven song in the 5 Heaven titles.
Could have gone with Warrant and their big song, Heaven. It's a great, great song.
You know, it's tough when the title of the song is just the
word.
You know what I usually do there? That's usually when it's a mystery category. And I'll start with that one-word title, and that becomes the rest of the category kind of hints all the way.
You
but-
probably domed him out by calling it Stairway to Heaven. He's waiting for...
Well, I told him that it wasn't one of
wasn't
the,
one of them.
It
Okay.
was not one of the
Okay.
5. He
All
knew
right.
that.
Hey, he got 3, though. It's pretty good.
3's not bad. No, not bad at all. And he got the song title of Belinda Carlisle. He just couldn't think of
Belinda Carlisle.
Belinda Carlisle.
Oh, my beloved. Oof. Man. I was a big fan of the Go-Go's back in the day.
I know you had a couple of Don't Do This stories you wanted to get to coming up. I'll throw one in right now since we're now vamping and waiting. Did you see the story about Snapdragon Stadium this week? Landon Donovan was irate about the field conditions for the Wave game.
I see Craig
on
Elston
Sunday, and
gets
Craig
very
tweeted
upset
about it as
too.
well.
Yeah.
He wrote about it in the UT. It's they're having a real problem because obviously you got San Diego State football games. You've got Wave games. When rugby season's on, you've got Legion games. And now, of course, San Diego FC is going to be starting in February. They play like 20 home games. And the question now is, how can you possibly keep the field in playable condition? Do they have too many tenants using the same field, and are they all going to end up on a real choppy surface? Because in the Wave game, clearly,
aesthetically, it did not look good.
Aesthetically, it was bad, but play-wise, it was bad too. Players were slipping. They hit sandy patches, so they replaced the entire turf field like a week and a half ago, but it hadn't totally set in after the last Aztecs home game. They just put a whole new field in, but it takes a few weeks for it to really settle in. So you either have a chopped up field that's been there too long, or you have a brand new field that's not. It hasn't grabbed the dirt essentially yet. So when you hit spots, it gets loose, and it's dangerous for players. It can lead to injuries. And Landon Donovan was not happy about it. He had some snarky comments about. Yeah, he said, when he was asked after they lost 2-0, essentially eliminated from playoff contention. Okay. And they have another game today. And the question was, what do you need to do differently? He says, well, I mean, we need to not basically be falling all over our field. It's going to be, would be a huge difference for us in the game going forward.
Well, and if it sounds like what you're saying, it's going to get worse.
Probably.
It's going to get worse. Because you're adding more tenants and you're chewing it up a little bit more. This can't be the only place in America that shares.
It's not, but most of them have field turf. The ones that, have multiple tenants in other parts of the country. I hate to think that that's the solution.
Turf.
I mean, when you're in San Diego,
I know.
You want to have real grass. I mean, you've got such good weather for it. It's such a better surface for the health of players than field turf. But
how did it work, Benny? You grew up here when the Chargers and the Padres. It was terrible, right?
I mean,
who was it worse for?
Probably the Chargers, honestly, because for the first month of the season, they'd have a big diamond dirt cutout in the middle of their football field with no grass at all.
When you ask me what I'm reminded of the 80s, other than like hair metal and excess, I remember that in several different stadiums, the dirt infield, you know what I mean? Like
they're kind of lucky that the Padres so rarely made the playoffs. Like when 1998 rolled around, you had 2 months of, dirt cut out. And having to they had to rechange the whole configuration of Qualcomm Stadium for baseball and football, and doing that for 2 months it just didn't look good either way. It didn't look good for the World Series because you had football games played on it. It certainly didn't look good for football games because you had the big dirt diamond that was still on the field that you couldn't cover with grass. So, it was great when they both got their own facilities and the Padres moved to Petco Park, but this is a lot of teams sharing one stadium.
It really is.
And, that makes sense economically, but in terms of playability and player safety, it's...
Have every coach complaining about it.
Exactly. No one's going to be happy with it.
So we're back. We're up and running. It'll be like a 2-minute don't do this if you want to push that to 8:20.
Okay.
We'll just come back and reset.
All right, because we do have Adam Jones coming up at the bottom of the hour. So now that the machine is working again, we can move forward. Check Kelly's traffic, and on we go on San Diego's #1 sports station, 97.3 The Fan.
All right, here we go.
Black 17 on.
That is fine. No.
All right, hit me.
Hamul Casino. Fun above all else.
All right, here we go.
Black 17 on.
That is fine. No.
All right, hit me.
Hamul Casino. Fun above all else.
The fastest segment in radio history.
And that was it.
All right, we'll be right back.
Congratulations.
Thanks so much for being here. We love you. We're very
No,
sorry.
Paulie, what happened? Just quickly, give us an update on all your issues over there. Have they been solved?
We have one computer that handles all of our drops, our commercials, our music, our entire show. and it crashed
What happened to
at 7:14, right before we went to break.
redundancy? Isn't that what they call it? Redundancy. You always want to have a backup
For the backup.
computer just in case something goes down. When you're on the air live and you're working without a safety net, we're literally working without a safety net. We have one computer. It happened, didn't it? Happen to? I feel like Braden or Scravey was on the air once, and he was in alone, sitting
By
with Paul.
himself.
He was running the board and hosting his show, and that computer went out, and he didn't have an engineer here. He just had to just talk for the entire hour.
I mean, literally, we had our Take on Woods guest on, the contestant, and as soon as I played the 2-second song for him, I turned my mic off and I called the engineers down the hall. I said, I need somebody over here right now.
Huh. I just would have started playing music.
I wouldn't have been able to.
If I was Scravey.
You'd hold your phone up to the mic?
Yeah, I would have been like, all right, so I don't know if you guys have heard this, but it's the newest song from The Cure. It's really, really good. And I would have just played it directly from my phone.
On 97.3 The Fan.
Here on 97.3 The Fan.
All right, we'll take that quick timeout. We'll come back on a Big League Wednesday, talk postseason and more. Padres exit with Adam Jones. He will join us coming up next. Thanks for bearing with us, everybody, on San Diego's #1 sports station, 97.3 The Fan. Getting on Adam Jones on a Big League Wednesday. We'll also have Bret Boone joining us coming up at 8:35 this morning. Some headlines from Paulie in the Reindl Report as again, an off day for the ALCS. NLCS resumes today. Game 3 as the series shifts to Citi Field in New York. The Mets and the Dodgers. Dodgers will send Walker Buehler to the mound against Luis Severino, who's been a real nice bounce back pickup for the New York Mets.
What a score by them.
After he was kind of supposed to be the guy for the Yankees. Obviously when he was kind of younger in his career, dealt with some injuries. They finally, parted ways, and Mets kind of picked him up. But I think with their fingers crossed, like how much can we get out of this guy? And he's been really terrific for them. They probably don't make this run and get to where they are without some really good performances from Severino down the stretch. He threw well against the Padres in the regular season, if I remember correctly. So he's been a big performer for them, and now this will be the biggest opportunity of the season for him tonight at 5:08. That's an FS1 game. Back to I don't know how they decide which games are on Fox and which ones are FS1, but according to my listings, that's an FS1 TV game tonight.
Yeah, you remember correctly. He pitched well against the Padres with the Yankees in 23 and against the Mets. And with the Mets, gave up 5 hits, 1 earned run, struck out 5. Back in August of this year, Benny. Yeah, he's had a really, really good season. I don't think they paid him a ton either. I mean, he was one of those guys that was kind of a gem that they polished, and look at him now getting a huge start, man. So I've always loved watching Sevy pitch. He's a really, really good pitcher when he's dialed in. That slider gets pretty nasty, so should be a fun one.
All right, so Paulie's calling up Adam Jones. We're going to check traffic, and then we will get to that right after Kelly's look at traffic here on 97.3 The Fan.
From the 97.3 The Fan Traffic Center, here's Kelly Danick.
This traffic report is driven by Kearney Mesa Volkswagen. Find your ultimate VW at KearneyMesaVolkswagen.com. The guys, fire crews are responding to a brush fire northbound 15, the eastbound King Freeway connector. In fact, looks like this is spreading more around eastbound King at Home Avenue. So, yeah, watch out for lots of confusion there. Crash on the 8th Street on-ramp to northbound 805. Up ahead, northbound side at 805. Right before the 54, we have reports of a collision. Couple vehicles over the right shoulder. Then one more problem up ahead right before the 8. Watch out for some debris in middle lanes. Northbound side of the 5, still clearing an accident before East Street. Motorcycle involved in this one. South on 163, right before Genesee. Got a collision in which a vehicle hit a light pole over to the right shoulder. And the North County Cordell and Cordell traffic cam shows a crash involving a car and a pickup truck west 78 before Nordall Road. Everything's over the right shoulder. Trick or treat yourself to the 2024 Volkswagen Jetta S for just $197 per month. This Halloween, drive home in style without frightening your wallet. Kearney Mesa Volkswagen is locally and veteran owned. For more details, head to KearneyMesaVolkswagen.com. I'm Kelly Danick with Ben & Wood, San Diego's #1 sports station, 97.3 The Fan.
Oh, what happened? Our dream of a Baltimore Orioles, San Diego Padres, Adam Jones-centric World Series.
The can't lose. It was going to be the can't lose World Series.
Has been lost, sadly, but we do welcome AJ, the 5-time All-Star, back with us on a Big League Wednesday. We had such high hopes all season long, Adam, and here we are. The post-mortem season is over, and it didn't go the way that we were hoping.
Yeah, it's okay. You know what I mean? I think it obviously it stinks, but both teams, in my opinion, have very good years. A lot of good things to build on, and let's not be disappointed. There's a lot of good things to build on, and I would take it from that aspect. Obviously, the Padres are in a little bit different situation than the Orioles in terms of adding money. I think some teams, Padres, might not add as much as opposed to the Orioles, but I think both teams are in great positions to do it again next year. And I think you got to focus on what's going on now and see who the free agents are and try to make your team better.
No doubt, man. I wanted to ask you this. How long did it take you after a season like that, that was a good season? I mean, by all accounts, it was a really, really good season. You get to the playoffs and you don't come through. The team doesn't come through. They get the last out, and you're walking off the field, watching the celebration kind of over your shoulder or whatever. You go pack your stuff up. What's that like for a player?
Well, I think you try to get as far away from the game as possible.
Yeah.
And there's always, you want to just like, okay, look, let me decompress. The season's over. You can show up the next couple of days to the ballpark to pack your things up a week. Veteran players might just not show up until, December when they want to go back to work out or something, depending on whatever schedules. But I just, you decompress from the series, from the season. You just, either go on vacation or just go back to the house and just relax and get around your people and, just an easy decompress. Go back to see your mama, have your family around you a little bit more and, just be around your loved ones. I think what I did is my wife definitely took us on vacation. And it was, that's why you see us all over the place now is because our decompression was being far away from the States as possible.
Was it super hard for you, though? I mean, because listen, none of us really appreciate. You try to, and we try to, get that message out to people too. I just think about the number of swings. Jackson Merrill talked about it after the game was over. He goes, they said, what are you going to do? And he goes, I'm going to go back to Petco because I'm going to get my stuff. He goes, I might just sit at my locker. And somebody goes, you need somebody to throw you BP? And he goes, no. He goes, I've never taken so many swings in my life. And, we can't fathom how many ground balls, fly balls, swings, to get ready for 162 plus spring training, plus all those, the exhibition games and spring trainings. And then you get to the playoffs and it's more and more and more and more and more. I don't know that we can truly fathom it. I know there's probably a sense of relief when it's over, but how bummed are you actually that the season ends, in the playoffs?
Oh, well, I mean, obviously it stinks no matter when your season ends, unless you're the last one standing. And that's
True.
the hardest thing to do in all sports, is be the last one standing. It's very hard to do. But if you give yourself a chance, I think you got to respect that. Again, the playoffs are tough. Who gets hot? Mets got hot. The Mets were literally, always like 2 games. They were like the Rangers last year.
Yeah.
2 games away from not being in the gauntlet. So once you get in, it's just all about who's hot and who's not. The Tigers go in there and beat Houston. So you got to respect it. What stinks is if your season ends September 30th and your wife already has a trip planned for you in August, telling you plans of what she has going on. That's when the season really sucks. But if you can play the season all the way to the end of it and are fighting for a spot and you get lucky to get a spot in the postseason, no one is going to ever, downplay that, in my opinion.
That's good perspective. I think it is. That's really good perspective.
What about the flip side of it? To me, I've always suspected, and I don't really know, but after you work so hard and you dedicate and you really, like this year, the Padres really bought in.
They did.
And every single one of them, all the way through, they bought into Mike Schilt, they bought into each other, and they worked so hard. And it's like when you're setting up all those dominoes and you're waiting and you want to tip them all over and have that spectacular, but you accidentally knocked one over and they all fell out and you got to start over again.
It's got to be.
And you got to start from the beginning again next season. New team, new players. How difficult is that to no, we are back to square one after we worked so hard to try to get there last year?
And that part, that does make a lot of sense also, is because the team is going to be different. The makeup is going to be different. Personnel, attitude, like a lot of things are going to be different next year, and that's a big point and a big factor. You had Profar playing on the 1-1. He's not going to be playing on the 1-1 next year.
No question.
Is he going to repeat that year? Is he going to repeat that year that he had last year, or this year, next year, in the next couple of years? Because he's going to, I assume, a 3 to 4 year deal, because he had a fantastic year and he's so versatile, and I think he's a fantastic player. But will he repeat the same year? I don't know. But it ain't going to be for $1 million. I know that.
Yeah.
I can confirm on that part. So, it's the personnel change is going to be different, but I think they're going to get guys and, hopefully with the understanding, building around you, obviously Manny and Tatis and Bogarts and Darvish, that you understand and buy into our philosophy. That's when if you're going to sign somebody big and important, you're going to have to use those guys' expertise to understand what kind of philosophy we want.
Talking to Adam Jones here on Ben and Woods, I do think that's really important too, because it does seem like, obviously they didn't get it done when it mattered the most, and it's hard. It's hard to turn the page. Certainly, we're all still lamenting it a little bit. But I will say one thing that the Padres did in 2024 is they established an identity. And the identity is built around guys like Jackson Merrill, Manny Machado, Xander Bogaerts. We know all the usual suspects and characters. So anybody that they go out and acquire in the offseason, AJ, when they come in, I do feel like they're going to have to buy in almost immediately. And we haven't seen that here, really. We didn't see it under Baumel. We didn't see it under Tingler. We didn't, the Stars weren't buying in under Andy Green and Jace Tingler, and even Bob Melvin to a certain extent. They did under Schilt last year. How hard is that to continue? Or is that, because you got one under your belt, is it easier now? Guys step in and they go, oh, okay, this is the way we do things around here.
Well, maybe Schilt's message was different than BMO's. I can't confirm that.
Sure.
When you're the manager, obviously you are the head of the captain of the team. You lead the troops. When you're the bench coach, you fall in line in some sort of specs. But Schilt, maybe his message was different. Maybe it was, I'm not going to be on you. I'm not going to do this, but we need to play this kind of way. We need to be better in this. Maybe he harped on things more. I can't confirm that, but I do know that they played more efficiently.
Yeah.
I think that was an easy way to see.
And more together, as a team, for sure.
Yeah, of course. So, but again, there's going to be some question marks with personnel, and can they answer them properly? And again, will they buy into Schilt's message?
We've asked you this before, but when the season ended, it ends, let's say your season ended, end of September. When is the first date you pick up a bat?
Pick up a bat would be after New Year's.
After New Year's, okay.
I felt that after New Year's, I'll be at San Diego State, and I would get tons of swings in. Tons of swings. Again, you harped on how many swings Jackson Merrill said he took this year.
Yeah.
Well, if I'm starting in January and I'm ending in, I hope, sometime in October, that's a lot of swings. So that for me, there's no point in starting earlier. I braced myself for a long season, and I made sure I was strong physically. I worked out and starting really after Thanksgiving because
nice.
I had to grub and just show my fat self.
One last blowout.
I got back into it.
Yeah, one last blowout for Thanksgiving, and then you start the grind the following Monday.
AJ,
Exactly.
Dodgers-Mets, Game 3 tonight. Series is tied at 1 going back to New York. What are you thinking here? I mean, this one, I feel like the Yankees are in obviously really good shape, but this one looks like it could be a dogfight. What are you seeing happening here between the Dodgers and the Mets?
You know what? It's like if Buehler does what he did against the Padres and he gives up an early amount of runs, they might go to the bullpen early because it's a long series. And if you get to him early and they start to make some moves and Severino's on, it could be tough. If it looked cold from watching the Guardians and the Yankees.
God, it did.
The Dodgers ain't been in no cold weather lately, so they're going to be in some long sleeves, what it looked like from last night's game. So there's a lot of factors that's going to switch in it. The sun is not going to be shining like it was in California. Baby.
It was windy as hell too. It looked like the first night of the Yankee game, and then you saw the wind kind of hold some home run balls in. They got off
an
some
8:08 p.m. Eastern start, so it's well after sundown, and it's cold and windy probably.
It's going to be cold. It's going to be cold. It's going to be a different time zone. It's going to be. Again, these guys are built for this.
Yeah.
Obviously, it's the ALCS.
But it's something.
Nobody's making no excuse. But they're going to be wearing long sleeves that they have not worn in a long time. Not those thin ones that look sexy. No, these ones are those thick ones that don't allow you to move too well.
So good.
Now, to be fair, the Mets haven't played a ton of home games lately either because they've been on the road for the wild card series, and then they just had the non-home field advantage the next series and haven't played one outside of Dodger Stadium. So, we'll see how that plays out. AJ, appreciate it as always. Take care. We'll hopefully chat with you again next Wednesday.
All right, appreciate it, guys.
Thank you, buddy.
Yeah, the Subway Series could happen, or the big market mash between the Dodgers and the Yankees. When was the last time they actually did have a Dodgers-Yankees World Series? Was that 1981? Was that
I was going to say
Yankees?
like 78 or something, but you may be right.
Late 70s, early 80s.
Was that the Reggie Jackson, Reggie Jackson hit 4 bombs, or was that from the 70s?
That might have been, but it's been a good 40-plus years since we've seen those two teams. The ones that, baseball rigs to make the World Series be Dodgers-Yankees every single year.
81.
81, that's what I thought.
Dodgers won it.
We haven't actually seen it in 43 years,
wow.
So it's not as rigged as you might think it is to have the Dodgers and Yankees in the World Series every single year. Yankees haven't been there in 15 years. Dodgers had their they won the short season one. They were in it in 2017 when they lost in 7 games to the Houston Astros, obviously. But they have not coincided in a World Series in a long time. And then the Subway Series was 2000. I think that was the only ever Subway Series between the Mets and the Yankees. And the Yankees won that one, the 4th of their 4 titles.
Yep. Excited for it, man. Excited for tonight. Love watching games like this. Honestly, you do get that sense that it could go either way, and the odds are pretty even.
Obviously, I'm cheering for the Mets, not the Dodgers. I do think Dodgers-Yankees is probably the better series in my mind.
I don't know if you're gonna say that out loud.
All right.
You can just think. Sometimes you can just think stuff to yourself.
You don't have to say
you don't have to say everything that comes to your mind. You just can think, or maybe when the mics go off.
I don't know. I feel like when you just have one city for the entire World Series, it gets too much. It's like, I'm so tired of New York this, and New York that, and New York this every single day. Would I, of course, rather it not be Los Angeles?
The Dodgers in it would be better?
No, not really. But
he's just saying aesthetically.
Aesthetically, yeah. I mean, I'd just rather it be 2 different cities normally.
I'll tell you, the players would be elated with the Subway Series. Absolutely elated.
We retired the Dave Roberts drop. But
we did.
I'll bring it back.
Yeah, Paulie he can go find it. Again, we should get rid of that poster, too. I'm tired of looking at that dude's face.
As long as they lose in the end. I don't really care when they lose in the end, but as long as they lose in the end. All right, we'll come back. We got 2 hours to go. Still have Bret Boone's going to join us in our 8:35 segment. We got a Reindl Report in the second half of Ben and Woods. We also have some new Ethan Salas sound, I believe, that we can get to coming up here with Ben and Woods and Dave Roberts here on the YouTube chat on 97.3 The Fan.
Justin Fields.
All right, we are halfway home on a Wednesday. Ben and Woods, 97.3 The Fan. Kind of a chilly-looking gray day out there, which matches the mood, I think, of a lot of Padres fans still. You know, a lot of people having trouble getting over it, and I certainly understand where you're coming from. You know, I kind of am of the opinion that life does go on. The sun will rise. We will continue to grind. I know A.J. Preller's probably back on it already, trying to figure out how they can improve this team. We are still waiting for the end of the season media kind of scrum on Zoom where we can listen to AJ talk about it, ask him some questions. I'm looking forward to it. I never look forward to those, but I am for this year. I want to see what the message is, what the attitude is. I saw Dave Dombrowski did his yesterday for the Phillies. Did a great job. I thought he did a great job answering a ton of questions and you know, player-specific stuff. It was really interesting stuff. If you're a baseball fan, to listen to that GM up there going, yeah, Taijuan Walker, not guaranteed a spot in the rotation. We gave him a plan. Let's see what he can do. He needs to get back to being dominant, but he'll come in and compete. You got it?
What are you going to do with Taijuan Walker?
Well, Taijuan Walker, he did not have a good year, as we all know, so no need to pound that into it. We have sat down with Taijuan before he left. He was given a very detailed program from a conditioning and throwing perspective. Not that he's in bad condition, but and to get him ready to try to get him back to be the pitcher that he was in the past. He is in a position where I'm convinced he will work hard on that to get it done. I would think he'll come to spring training with us next year, but he's not guaranteed a starting spot. I don't think I can just say, hey, you're our fifth starter. I think he would come to camp and be in a battle to try to win a spot in the rotation.
That's interesting stuff from a GM of a team.
Why? Well, first of all, would you actually go to this press conference? Because you don't generally appear at a lot of the A.J. Preller press conferences.
From what my understanding is, it's probably going to be on Zoom.
So, well, I mean, now that, you know, pandemic is in our rearview mirror.
It was in our rearview mirror last year.
A lot more toward in-person. I don't know at this point. I don't know if they're even going to do one. You feel like they have to do one? Like, what questions do you feel like need to be answered at this moment?
I mean, I don't think you can. I think that the exit interview type thing is absolutely necessary.
Is it?
Yes.
Or is it eyewash?
No, it's necessary. It's necessary.
I think last year was absolutely necessary. There was a ton of lingering questions from that season. The disappointment of 2023.
Sure. Here's a question. Okay, so everybody, it was a great season, no question. It didn't end the way you wanted it to end. How do we keep the vibes going next year? Are you guys planning on spending more money? Are you, after 56 sellouts at Petco Park? What kind of restriction? You had a massive restriction.
Yeah. I mean, you're not going to
from our perspective. The season just ended.
I still want it. I still want to ask.
We're going to go reevaluate.
By the way, that question was asked last year. Are you going to reduce payroll? Are you going to go below the luxury tax? We still haven't heard one answer to that question. The only answer they have given us is they actually reduced payroll by about $90+ million and got under the luxury tax. Not once. I don't think once I heard A.J. Preller, Eric Grupner, Eric Kutsenda ever mention the words luxury tax, CBT, reset of the payroll reduction. Not once was that ever mentioned. It was written a couple of times by Kevin Acee, numbers that turned out to not really be correct. I think the first speculation was, well, they're probably going to go down to like 220, but they're never going to be able to get it under the luxury tax number. But then it became clear from the moves they made, even though they've still never actually said that their goal was to get under the luxury tax. Not once have they said, we want to reset our luxury tax number. Correct? Am I missing? Do I not remember something that was said? Because I do not recall any actual discussion of the reason why we have lowered our payroll so much is because we would like to get under the luxury tax penalties. No, clearly that is the reason they were doing it, but they haven't ever acknowledged it once. They don't talk about it. They do not talk about specific payroll levels, and I don't expect them to ever start doing that.
Still going to ask them. According to Spot Track right now, total cap allocations, the adjusted payroll total is hard to say. Payroll total is $154 million. 154,535,453. So $155 million, call it. Adjusted payroll total for the year 2025 is $154 million. You need to spend more money.
Well, some of that, arbitration increases for players like Michael King and Luis Ariz will eat up and make that number go up before you've even actually done anything. But that's where it sits right now.
Right now, today. Yeah, because there's guys in ARB, that are going to get, like you've got Luis Ariz in ARB 4, Jason Adams in ARB 3, Campusano's in ARB 1, Michael King is in ARB 3, Dylan Cease is in ARB 3. So, yeah, I mean, that number is going to go up. But as it stands right now, that's where you're at right now. You still need to spend more money. You need to spend more money.
I think there is a question of whether you're willing, if the right player came along, whether you'd be willing to go back over the luxury tax level number again, like you did in previous years, or if that's not something you're willing to do again. Once you reset your penalties, they're not as bad for going over once. I don't think we're ever going to see the Padres. Now that Peter Seidler is gone, I don't think we'll see the consistent 3 years in a row blowing way past
it.
The luxury tax level. You don't see other teams doing it. It was pretty shocking that the Padres did it, and I don't expect that to go forward. But there is certainly the possibility that if the right player came along, you'd be willing to do it once. I mean, attendance remains very, very good, and you should try to continue to foster that.
That's the thing is, I was telling Hannah yesterday, I said, you can't lose this momentum. And I know it ended poorly, and I know it ended in a huge disappointment. But it still ended in a Game 5 against, a juggernaut, the LA Dodgers. You still had 56 sellouts. You can't lose that momentum. You just can't.
Baseball laughs at your momentum, though. Last year they had zero momentum, and they cut payroll, which would you would think most teams with zero, a hugely disappointing season that cuts $100 million of payroll. Welcome to last place in empty ballparks.
Yeah.
Instead,
not this team.
Welcome to 93 wins and sold out Petco Park 57 times and a record attendance. So
I'm not talking about the momentum of the team. I'm talking about the momentum of the city, and I'm talking about the momentum of the fan base. That's what I'm talking about.
Right, but
the fans packed that place regardless.
The fans, apparently,
the fans packed that place when they were 50 and 50.
Wins. They don't want to see payroll. They want to see wins.
Well, right, but they packed that place when they were 50 and 50. That's what I'm saying. You can't lose the trust and momentum that your city has built. I'm not talking about the momentums of wins and losses. I'm talking about what this city has decided to become. You can't go in and lick your thumb and put your thumb over the flame. You just can't.
You could double the payroll next year, and if you lose 85 games, people aren't going to be happy.
No.
And you could cut payroll, and if you win, 97 and win the division,
they're going
to be ecstatic.
But the thing is I think they're going to. You want to make sure that they continue to show up, right? You want to make sure that they continue to come.
Of course.
The way that you can guarantee people will come, Ray, is to have good players.
If I was in the Padres front office, Eric Grupner, his staff, when Peter Seidler said, we're going to spend a ton of money, I would have been a nervous wreck going,
100%.
We need an insane number of people to show up to make this even come close to working in our budget. I mean, we're going to need to set attendance records every single year. Well, you have. So now what do I worry about? Now we got to keep all these people. We got to keep them coming back every single year. We have to be, the Red Sox, how many years in a row did they sell out Fenway? When they were winning the World Series. We need to now go 20 straight years where Petco Park is essentially full every single night, and that's what would now stress me out and keep me up at night. How are we going to make sure that we don't lose, a drop of these fans that we have gotten into our ballpark? We have given them fun, good experiences. Now, how do we keep them? How do we keep them coming back?
And I love the upgrades and all that stuff and the new options and all that, and I always will. But that's not what moves me, and I don't think it's what moves the fan base. Ticket prices went up. Padres fans said, "Okay, we got it. Let's go. We're still going to go." What moves the people is the players, the passion that they have for the game, the way that they played hard, the way that they had comebacks. That's what moves the moments, man. That's what moves the people.
But what about the phenomenon? And you saw it at Dodger Stadium, day game. Where were all the people? It was, looked half empty. potentially. Arizona, have great seasons. Fans still don't show up. I mean, you get spoiled when you start winning every year.
Let's worry about that problem when we start winning every year.
It's fine.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, they're not there yet.
No.
But
We're on our way.
If I'm an executive though, I'm already like worried about that problem. All right, let's say we continue to win and make deep runs into the playoffs 3 years. When does that not be enough for fans? How do we keep them in beyond that? Because to make it work economically in San Diego, you got to keep doing this. You can't all of a sudden go back 2.5 million fans, because that's going to be a huge hit on your revenue and budget if you do that. So you got to keep setting records and bring in as many people to Petco Park as you have the last couple of years.
Yeah, no question. And you have to keep that momentum going, And it's not going to be with stopgap players. It's got to be with guys that put asses in the seats, as we say all the time. Luis Arise, he was a guy, when you made that move, brought an immediate burst of energy, not only to the clubhouse, but to the fan base, okay? Dylan Cease, the trade for him. No, it didn't work out for Dylan in the end, but that's a guy you're like, I've got to go watch this guy throw. He threw a no-hitter this year. I'm talking about the moments that get the fans to the ballpark.
I think next year they'll be pretty good. I mean, they still, reportedly a wait list for season tickets, and I don't anticipate a lot of people going, well, after what I saw this last year, I don't want to be a part of the 2025 Padres. No. I think most people are going to want to re-up,
And you want to see if they can keep it rolling.
Even with the announced, increase in ticket prices, my guess is the renewal rate is going to be very, very high, and there will still be demand for Padres tickets next season. So next year, they're probably in good shape. But I'm always looking, 2, 3, 4 years out if I'm running my baseball team. And how do we keep this momentum? How do we not let the train get off the tracks, so to speak?
There's one way to do it, and it's to make sure you have exciting players that are ready to play for the city and ready to play for each other and ready to play for the fans, just like they did last year until they didn't. But
you
you
signed Fernando Tatis Jr. to an essentially lifetime contract.
Yep.
You have apparently instigated negotiations with Jackson Merrill, who is one of those players. As much as we love Manny, my guess is for the average fan, Tatis and Merrill probably maybe bring them to the ballpark more. If I want to win, I need a Manny Machado on my team. But in terms of like the entertainment and vibes at the ballpark, those two guys to me are now the most important members of the San Diego Padres.
Yeah, I think they're like the cornerstones. Those are the guys that they're both young. They're both extremely dynamic. They play next to each other. It's really, really, you got to keep that going and continue. And you're going to get it from those guys if healthy. Both of them are going to provide that every single day. So again, for me, that's my biggest question mark is, can you keep that train rolling next year? You have to. You have to. You cannot get into a position, I think, if you're Eric Rupner or whoever, Eric could send to whoever's calling the shots, you can't get into a position where you're like, let's chop $40 million and trust AJ to go out and build it. They tasked him this year with something massive. He answered their call. So, if you look at it that way with Eric Rupner and Eric Katsenda saying, sorry, AJ, we're doing this and we're going to have to trade this. Let's see your best effort. Well, he gave them their best effort. He gave them his best effort he's ever had as a GM, his best year by far. And they stopped hitting with 24 innings to go. They just stopped hitting. So big sweeping changes aren't necessarily necessary, but you have to keep it going. I'm not saying you got to go out and sign Carlos Correa and a bunch of, start throwing good money after bad. Do have to put a really competitive team on the field. And like we've always talked about, just because it doesn't look that way in April, maybe, could look completely different in July. We know he has the ability to make moves.
And a lot of our off-season discussions will be focused on how do you do that? How do you put the most competitive team possible again on the field with what you have to work with?
What you have to work with.
On the field in 2025.
Yeah.
All right, we will come back. We had some technical difficulties last hour, which means don't do this. We'll make a rare 8 o'clock hour appearance in our next segment, and then Bret Boone is going to join us at the bottom of the hour. Don't go anywhere. More Ben and Woods coming up after a check of traffic here on 97.3 The Fan.
Hamul Casino. Fun above all else.
All right, here we go.
Black 17 on.
That is my number.
All right, hit me.
Hamul Casino. Fun above all else.
All right, a little 8 o'clock hour DDT after we had, again, some technical difficulties last hour. We already talked about the field problem at Snapdragon Stadium, which is kind of a local don't do this to keep an eye on, and how they're going to handle multiple tenants and chopping up the field, especially this time of year, Woods, because September, October is when you'll have wave, you'll have San Diego FC, you'll have Aztecs, and you'll have just been finishing like the rugby season from the summer. I mean, that field is taking a beating right now with so many teams playing on it.
So our buddy in the chat, Purple, earlier when we were talking about it, said, yeah, and you can't really go to turf because then you'll miss out on some big matches, some big soccer matches with FIFA. Is that's true? It has to be grass?
Yeah, they're like for the World Cup, they're replacing the turf at MetLife Stadium with grass just for the games, so they can have the World Cup final there, because they don't want to play it because you get more injuries on field turf than real grass. But you also get more injuries on chopped up real grass where you're sliding around on bare spots and muddy spots and sandy spots like we saw with the Wave game over the weekend. It's an issue. It's a problem.
And clearly none of these teams have ever played adult ball, Paulie, have they? The fields that we have to play. You know what? Cry me a river. All right? Just come out and play some adult ball one time. It's hard for me to ever feel bad for big leaguers in any sport. The most pristine conditions. They're used to it, but no, you're right. I saw the pictures going out. I guess I didn't realize it was that bad.
When you show up at fantasy camp, it must be a real treat, because those fields in Peoria are perfect.
Yeah,
pristine. You just want to lay on them. You just want to be on them. Everything. I mean, it's just, even the worst field there is still better than anything you've played on.
I will say the Petco Park field is great. When I was up at Dodger Stadium, it was like a putting green. Yeah. I mean, literally, their grass looked like a putting green when I was on it.
It's unbelievable.
It's amazing.
We got to play there.
Bouncy. It's spongy.
It's almost like it's weird, man. It's just,
it's perfect.
Everything is true. But yeah, man, you're a pro athlete. You're out there and you're playing, and there's patches of sand and things like that. It's just not good, man. It just can't. What's the solution?
I mean, you need a really good turf keeper and, strategies. And sometimes that does take some time.
Yeah.
Fields, the first time you put them in, you got to dial it in a little bit. It takes a while. So hopefully they figure it out. Otherwise, they may have issues going forward.
I literally could put this in do or don't do this, but John Sterling, the great John Sterling, he came out of retirement, did he not, Benny, to call these games on the radio for the New York Yankees in the playoffs. And last night they ran into they ran into 2 outs in 1 inning. Somehow they managed to still score a run in that inning. When is the last time that happened? 2 outs on the base pass, you end up scoring a run anyway. But Jazz Chisholm got picked off second. Anthony Rizzo got picked off second. Here's what the great John Sterling had to say.
The 0-2, a bouncer, and Rizzo is going to be picked off. He's in the middle between second and third. Hedges now throws to second, on the way to third, back to second, back to third, tagged out, end of inning. Boy, if that wasn't the Yankees, that's what they do, run the bases like drunks. Well, Glaber will lead off the next inning.
It's so good. They run the bases like drunks.
That's what they do. Run the bases like drunks.
I would like very much for Jesse to weave that in next year at some point.
It is funny. I think in New York you hear a little bit more of that than anywhere else.
Yeah.
I can't picture Jesse saying something
what
like that.
What a legend, though. You can see her, Mudwood.
Maybe Uncle Teddy, I could have heard something saying like that.
Uncle Teddy. 100%. They're running the bases like drunks.
And he'd probably get a call from someone if he said it at some point.
I can see Teddy saying that.
Who's
drunks? I tell you, they're running like drunks.
By the way, who's calling John Sterling? Adam, like, hey, could you not say drunks anymore? There's kids listening.
Adam, didn't you see the play?
No. Well, you go watch it and tell me that they're not running like drunks. Hey.
And that was after Jazz Chisholm
I saw it.
had gotten picked off as well in the same inning. So.
John, Adam, call me, please. Trying to air check John Sterling. That was such an elite call.
Do you still have the John Sterling voicemail, Paulie?
Yeah, but we're out of time.
We got time.
Okay. We got a little time for it. I love that one.
The best.
Here, you call it up while I do our quick do this story.
DD mega doo-doo.
And it was obviously a sad and emotional moment, but last night the Columbus Blue Jackets played their home opener without Johnny Gaudreau, of course, who was killed with his brother in the drunk driving accident as they were pedestrians on the wedding weekend. Just so sad. But what a great tribute they had to start the game. They came out without their left winger, so you had kind of the missing man formation. And then the referees dropped the puck, and the players just froze for 13 seconds. Johnny Gaudreau's number 13. They just sat there, and no one did anything, kind of like a moment of silence. The clock was ticking down, underway, had the empty spot, and then 13 seconds, they skated someone onto the ice, and they raised a banner for him, and it was an emotional, gut-wrenching, kind of night, obviously, for Columbus Blue Jackets hands. They've lost 4-3. I know. His best friend scored a goal. He said, I knew I was going to get one for Johnny. I knew he was looking. He said, sucks that we lost. Wanted to win. Again, you can't, as we know, Padres fans, as much as you want to make it about the win,
the emotions and everything.
They handled it right. They handled it well. And then that was our do this.
That was Don't Do This with Ben and Woods on 97.3 The Fan.
So, yeah, this was several years ago. We got offered the opportunity to interview John Sterling, and he hadn't retired yet, and we said, yeah, absolutely. He's like one of the elite voices of baseball, 100%. And they just said, all right, well, here's his number. Reach out to him and figure it out. So I sent him a text message, and a couple hours later, I got this phone call. I got a voicemail from John Sterling. I don't remember. I didn't answer the phone.
Why you didn't answer the phone? But yeah.
Yeah, Paul, this is John Sterling. It is 12, I don't know, let's say it's 12:30 on Wednesday afternoon in New York, so it's 10:30 your time. No, it'd be 9:30 your time. Please.
You're kind of leaving a voice message like a drunk out there, John.
Yeah. Give me a call when you want me on the air. I'd be glad to do it for you. I'd love it, as a matter of fact.
Aww.
So at some point, I'll be home late afternoon. And or tomorrow all afternoon. So just give a call. Thanks.
That's so good, man.
I think you just got tagged out between second and third during that voicemail, John.
Can we try to get him on again?
100%.
Absolutely.
Let's try again.
Absolutely.
You wait?
Do we wait till the season's over?
See if they make the World
see
Series.
how far they go.
Yeah.
Well, speaking of the Yankees, remember a few months ago when they were struggling in like July and August, and everyone was out for blood for Aaron Boone?
I mean, I didn't think he'd make the summer.
Wonder how they're feeling now as they're 2 wins away from the World Series. We will have Aaron's brother, Bret, on joining us on a Big League Wednesday. That is coming up when we return with more Ben and Woods on San Diego's #1 sports station, 97.3 The Fan. It is a big league Wednesday. They continue here through the postseason, even though our Padres are sadly eliminated. We got Bret Boone standing by. In fact, why don't we just get right to traffic, and we'll chat with Booney on the other side here on 97.3 The Fan.
From the 97.3 The Fan Traffic Center, here's Kelly Danick.
This traffic report is driven by Kearney Mesa Volkswagen. Find your ultimate VW at KearneyMesaVolkswagen.com. Well, big thank you to fire crews for putting out that brush fire north 15 connector to the eastbound King Freeway. Speeds are looking much better there. Now crash on westbound 52 right around the 125. Looks like that is mostly in the center divide. Cordell and Cordell traffic cam shows a collision on southbound 163 before Genesee. That's got the two right lanes blocked. And in the North County, southbound 15 before Ballaceda. Got a collision over to the right shoulder. Haunt the streets in the spacious 2024 Volkswagen Tiguan 2.0S FWD for only $239 a month. Perfect for families or your creature crew. Kearney Mesa Volkswagen, your local veteran-owned dealership. For more details, head to KearneyMesaVolkswagen.com. And Kelly Danick with Ben and Woods, San Diego's #1 sports station, 97.3 The Fan.
And we're joined right now by Odyssey MLB insider Bret Boone. Insider Calls presented by Grainger with supplies and solutions for every industry. Grainger has the right product for you. Call, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Bret, host of the Bret Boone podcast, featuring the most notable names in MLB and around sports every week. And Bret, we were just talking about how about 2 months ago, felt like a lot of New York was ready to run your brother out on the rails. And how are they feeling right now, I'd imagine, with the Yankees 2 wins away from their first World Series trip since 2009. Man, oh man, how quickly things change in the world of baseball.
That's the beauty of New York. It's day to day. You're the greatest on earth. You fire everybody in the organization the next day. But that's what makes New York, New York. And I've always loved that part of it. You know, the fans are so passionate. And it is. It's not even week to week or month to month. I mean, it's day to day. You could be riding high and you lose the third game of that 3-game series, and they're coming for blood. So that's the nature of it. You know, Aaron knew and knows what comes along with being the skipper of the Yankees, but they're in pretty good position now. You know,
Bret,
watching these last games.
Is that a good fan or a bad fan? Is that an educated fan or an uneducated fan?
I think it's just the way it is.
It's just the way it is.
The fans in New York now, I mean, and I always refer to this, they still think it's 1940. Like the Yankees need to win every single year. There's no parity in baseball. You know, back when they were the evil empire and they had more money than everybody else and they won all those World Series championships. I think in the late 90s, they called lightning in a bottle. You had an unbelievable group of guys that come along once in a lifetime, and they put together those 4 rings in short course. But other than that, World Series are really hard. They're really not only hard to get to, but to win. But in New York, because of the history and all the world, it's just like, oh, we're going to the World Series or bust.
Yeah.
And 90% of Major League Baseball franchises, if their team were to go to the World Series and let's say lose, they'd come home to a ticker tape parade. Yankees lose, it's like, you better not even come home. So that's just the mindset, the way it is. I don't think it's an uneducated fan base. I just think it's maybe a little bit jaded just because of the history. And in 2024, there's just a lot more parity. There's a lot of other organizations out there that spend a lot of money. You look at the Dodgers on the West Coast. They're proven money doesn't buy you a World Series championship. It's got to be the right group of guys, get on the right run at the right time, got to have a little luck on your side. Things got to go right. World Series is especially today, with the postseason and how long it is and how many series you have to go through. Even if you're the best team, you can't have a hiccup on your way. Where in yesteryear, 20, 40 years ago, you get to the end. There's only 4 teams in the postseason, and usually the best teams end up winning that. But it's a different world. But for me, it's plenty entertaining. I love the postseason. I've enjoyed all these games.
Us too. I mean, obviously, except for the last 24 innings from the San Diego Padres, it was so jarring to see, Brett. A team,
unbelievable.
It was really unbelievable. I mean, and I saw somebody in our chat the other day say, well, plate discipline has to be a theme moving forward. And I said, 24 innings? You can't base the whole season off of 24 innings. Right. For me, it was odd watching them not do what they've done for like 166 games. I mean, it was just staggering to see. And there's nothing I can really attribute it to other than, yes, obviously the Dodgers pitched well. They got guys to expand that typically don't. They made plays when they needed to make plays. It was jarring to watch, man. 24 straight innings without a run was jarring.
Yeah, and we always knew, the Dodgers with Glass now being down, not being at full strength from a pitching capacity, and Yamamoto kind of being a question mark going into that final game. How is he gonna pitch? Well, I think he answered that. He pitched phenomenally. I think Darvish pitched a great game as well. He gave up 2 home runs, 2 solo shots, and that ended up being the real difference in the game. But yeah, there's no rhyme or reason. I think I put a tweet out because they pitched 3 shutouts in a row, the Dodgers did. They extended that. And I think they might have set a record for most innings.
One short, I think. One inning short.
They tied it. They needed one more out, and then Lindor got a home run.
Yeah, Lindor got him.
Yeah, not in my lifetime. In a regular season, if you go back-to-back shutout games, that's headlines. But they did it 3 times in a row in the postseason, and I'm looking around going, I don't remember this ever being a thing. So, sometimes you got to tip your hat to the opponent. The Dodgers, we know offensively, they can explode at any time. They have so many weapons. But the way Flaherty pitched, and that really impressed me too. Flaherty, the way he pitched his last game,
really good.
He's quite impressive, and I didn't expect that. I thought the Padres were going to get to Flaherty. No, not the case. So sometimes you got to give credit where credit's due. Obviously, it was disappointing for the Padres after being up 2-1 in a real emotional series. And I think they're developing some bad blood, and that San Francisco Dodger rivalry is kind of shifting a little bit to Padres and Dodgers. But I think as a player, that type of atmosphere, even at times, is a bit hostile. Man, it's a lot of fun to be in the middle of.
But now, Boone, the Dodgers have their hands full with the Mets. That series is tied. It's going back to Citi Field today. The Mets, even though they have the highest payroll in baseball, they were not really expecting to be contenders. Even David Stearns, the new president of baseball operations, at the beginning of the season said our window's more 2025, 2026. Yet here they are, 3 wins away from the World Series. What did the Mets do right this season, in your opinion, that has them to this point where they could actually beat the Dodgers and go to the World Series?
Well, I remember around All-Star break, we did our mid-season update that we do on my show, and I had the Mets dead and buried, but I also had Detroit, Kansas City. I had them not doing anything, not even coming close to the postseason, let alone getting to the second round. Mets getting to the final round before the World Series. This Mets team I'm watching, they've got a resiliency. you look at them on paper, they're the Mets. You know, they're not going to be in opposition for the Dodgers. They kind of get blown out game one, they come back right away in game two, and even the series. This Mets team just seems to be a thorn in people's side. Kind of, I don't want to compare everything to the Arizona Diamondbacks of a year ago, but kind of the Arizona Diamondbacks of a year ago, the down and out, we played a lot of postseason type games down the stretch just to get to the postseason. They had that crazy finish where they had to win one in Atlanta the day after the regular season ended. They ended up getting the job done there. They've just been resilient, and a cast of characters just getting it done. Lindor has really stepped up, hit the big grand slam. Pete Alonso, they're two stars. Alonso's hit 3 postseason home runs, and then you're getting contributions from Winker, who I had Carlos Mendoza on the show. I said, tell me about this Winker guy. It looks like a psychopath. He goes, Booty, he's the type of guy you love to have on his team, but when he's on the other team, you love to hate him. Winker's been a big part. He's got some big hits for him, Nimmo and Vientos, and it's just been, you know, not one guy getting it done. Severino's starting to pitch like an all-star again. Quintana. In the final game against Philly, I'm watching this game, and it's Quintana against Suarez. And I've seen Suarez in his postseason prowess, and I just thought, if Suarez pitches his game, there's no chance the Mets beat him. Well, Suarez pitched great. Quintana matched him, and next thing you know, the Mets are moving on to the second round. That ought to be a pretty exciting series. I think on the Yankee side, I'm watching the Yankees. Really sloppy play. Bad base running for the Yankees last night, but Judge finally broke out, hit a 2-run homer. Rizzo's back. I didn't expect him to be back. That's really important to shore up that infield defense. That's really not the best. But it was Cleveland last night making the mistakes. The big error in the first inning with the shortstop. I know it's windy. I know it can be like that in the postseason in New York, but you're a big league shortstop. That can't happen.
Yeah.
That ball can't drop. Later in the game, Brennan dropped a routine kind of fly ball to right field. So,
and then the bobble, too, in right field, letting a run score as well. I mean, yeah, just
exactly.
really
That's
sloppy.
all down the line.
Yep.
Yeah, it's just real sloppy play from a Guardians team that's pretty shored up and pretty good defensively. I was worried about the Yankees being the defensive liability, and it's been quite the reversal there. Another thing about the Yankees, and we talk about bullpens, obviously the Padres had one of the best bullpens around. Cleveland has a great bullpen. They haven't been great. Where the Yankees, they were a little shaky down the stretch with Holmes not being in that closer role. They put Weaver in that closer role. Now Holmes is more of a 6th, 7th, 8th inning guy wherever they decide to use him, but Holmes is starting to pitch like Holmes the closer we've seen for the last 3-4 years. That is huge for that bullpen and the mentality down there. Now Aaron has the feeling that he can go to Holmes anytime and rely on him. That wasn't the case down the stretch. So that bullpen getting stronger. Biggest thing I saw last night is Aaron Judge. He had a couple good at bats. He just didn't barrel him up, but he hit a sacrifice fly, and then late in the game he hit that 2-run homer. You could see some relief on his face, because if the Yankees are going to win the World Series, I think Aaron Judge has got to be back to the Aaron Judge we're used to in that MVP season. And so last night hitting that 2-run homer late to kind of put it out of reach, that's good for the Yankees and bad for Cleveland. They're in a tough spot right now, Cleveland being down 2-0.
It's crazy too, Booney. I mean, you've seen it in your career, guys that had rough regular seasons, like guys like Giancarlo Stanton, who's just like, well, G's here, he's going to hit, he's DH, he can't run, can't field. Something about October, he comes alive and starts hitting the ball, harder than any human being should hit a baseball. I can't even imagine trying to play third against him or up the middle. I mean, he's just going to take your head off with it. When October comes, he arrives, and it's wild. And you see other guys like the Aaron Judges of the world who did break out, but Kike, 13 home runs in October. I mean, it's just nuts, man. It is truly insane.
Bizarre press conference afterwards.
Very bizarre. Yeah, very, very bizarre indeed.
You know the thing about, and there's a lot been made, of course, when you're the MVP, when you're Aaron Judge, you're going to be criticized for everything you do. Yet at the same time, you're going to be praised when you're an MVP caliber player. But the thing about that is when Giancarlo Stanton, he's stepping up and he's carrying the mail for Aaron Judge when Aaron Judge is having a little bit of tough sledding in the postseason. When you're winning games, nobody cares.
Yeah, fair.
It's a huge spotlight on you when you're the man. You're not playing well, and that's and the team's losing. But as long as you win, it doesn't really matter. It's like, okay, big Haas, we got you. We keep winning these games. We know you're going to be there eventually. That's a good feeling because when you're out there, you're the focal point. You're not getting it done and your team's losing. Man, that just it double stacks it on top of already a full plate for you. And the fact that the Yankees are winning games without their star being their star, that says something about the Yankees, and that's just gravy. Now Aaron Judge gets it going. Wow, then it's going to be real tough to beat that Yankee team.
Before you go, Booney, we had a topic earlier this morning. We were talking about Ha-Sung Kim and what the Padres are going to do at shortstop this offseason.
Mm-hmm.
What kind of value do you think he has? You know, coming off an injury, didn't have his best offensive season or defensive season, but he's clearly hired Scott Boras. He's gonna opt out. What kind of value do you think he's going to have on the open market?
Well, I think he's going to have decent value. Obviously, his feeling was a year ago after he had that big season. He was a fan favorite in San Diego. He's a really good player. I don't think he's an elite player where somebody's going to, put him in the middle of the lineup and depend on him. I think he can play all over the diamond. I think he's a great swing guy. And maybe on a championship team, maybe he's not a guy that's in the lineup every day, but he has that ability to play second, play third, play short. He can do pretty much everything you want. A very valuable player. I think from a Padres perspective, and this is just my thought process, you signed Bogaerts to a long-term deal. He signed with the idea of, at least in the immediate future, he is a shortstop. He's coming from Boston as an all-star MVP caliber shortstop. All of a sudden, put him at second base, and yeah, he did the right thing. He said all the right things, and
played well.
I'm just here to make the team better. But I'm telling you, shortstops have egos, and the fact that Bogaerts was not playing short made him a little bit off. I think going forward with the money you have wrapped up in Bogaerts, you let him play short and make him happy. Hopefully he regains that offensive prowess. And I love Cronenworth at second base. That, for me, Cronenworth, I think, is a plus defender. I think he's in his best position when he's playing defense at a high caliber level. I think that's going to attribute to his overall offense, his overall play as a player. I really like Cronenworth at second. I like Bogaerts at short. And Kim, we'll see where it falls, being a free agent.
Booney, we're out of time.
Thanks, Booney.
We're a week away. We'll talk to you about the World Series next Wednesday.
You got it, guys. Thank you.
That's Odyssey MLB Insider Bret Boone. Insider calls are presented by Grainger. With supplies and solutions for every industry, Grainger has the right product for you. Call, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Wasn't my take on Xander Bogaerts, but that's okay. That's why we bring on different opinions on this program. All right, we'll come back. Tampa Bay Rays have a even bigger problem than we all thought. Paulie will have an update for us on the Reindl Report. That's coming up next here on 97.3 The Fan. Final hour of Ben and Woods. We've got some audio from Ethan Salas that we're going to share with you coming up later this hour. Before we get to the Reindl Report as well, thanks again to Bret Boone, who just joined us in our last segment. It is funny. I mean, he talked about the New York fans. I thought your question, Woods, was really good. Does that make you a good fan or a bad fan? To be reactionary, to not have patience for just the nature of baseball. You know, good teams will go through slumps, sometimes month-long slumps. The 1998 Padres were awful in June, if I remember correctly. You didn't fire Bruce Bochy. You didn't, throw away the team. They ended up going to the World Series and having a great year.
These Mets were 11 games under 500. And
people were burying them.
6 games into the season, I think we played the audio from Gary Cohen back when it happened. He said, it's time to fold up the tents. Like, this team is going into 6 games in. Gary Cohen's a really smart baseball man, too. And I think he was feeling the vibe of the New York fans, too, because I don't think Met fans are any different than Yankee fans. And really, a lot of teams like that. But, I've been that way in my life, and I certainly am a championship or bust type person. That's what you play for, and I think that's what you GM for, and that's what you're an owner for. You will never change my mind. If you come in here and tell me, 100 wins is good and it's cool and it's great. But if you don't win the last game, it just doesn't really matter to me. It was fun, and I loved covering it, and I was inspired several times.
I mean, I look at the playoff teams, the ones that are left, the ones that are not left. You'll never not be able to convince me that the team that was best built to win in the playoffs and win a World Series was not the San Diego Padres.
I know.
I will still believe that. It's baseball, though. It doesn't mean that that doesn't guarantee you anything.
Yeah, man.
If they played the playoffs 20 times, maybe the Padres win 10 or 11 World Series, but this wasn't one of them, unfortunately. What does that mean, though? What do you do about that?
Look, and I get frustrated at reactionary fans in during the season. Sometimes I do, and I can also be one at times. The older I get, maybe the less reactionary I get. The more I watch, I watch a ton. I always have really been since I've been 10 years old. But you get older, priorities change, your mentals change. You don't live and die as much. You have to realize sometimes that you can't. Somebody had a great tweet. I think I retweeted it the other day about playoff baseball. And not that it was excruciating, but the cool thing about playoff baseball, I'm going to look for it. It's getting mad about the way that Mike Shildt manages his bullpen in a game in May, whether he's too aggressive or not aggressive enough or whatever, I don't get super upset about those anymore. Whereas I might have used to, this is ridiculous and blah, blah, blah. You kind of want to let it play out a little bit more. But you know what, man? Everybody's different, certainly. I can't live that way during a baseball season anymore. I can't, because last year, 23 almost ended my life, dude. So I've had to make some changes in the way that I fan. But I do agree, and I will always agree, if you don't win the championship, it wasn't a super successful season.
But ultimately, even if the Mets win the World Series, there's not a person in the world, including their own GM, who thought 6 months ago that this was a World Series team.
It's a good point. Here it is. From our buddy Definite Expert, tweets, the playoffs whip ass because they mostly do manage these games the way a drunk guy at a bar thinks the manager should be handling the same situations against the Rockies on a Tuesday night in May. It summed it up for me perfectly, because you're watching a game against the Rockies in May. It's a Tuesday night, and you're like, you got to pull him. He gave up 2 runs in the first inning. He's done. You got to go to your long man, or you got to go to this guy, or you got to pinch hit for this guy. Doesn't work that way. It can't work that way. Mike Shildt can't manage that way. Aaron Boone can't manage that way. I understand it. It's a really hard sport to cover. It's a massively hard sport to understand. But I don't know that makes you a smart and passionate fan if you think that you should win every game. I think it kind of makes you an imbecile, because there's no way. It's never been done. It's never been done. It never will be done. I will promise you, no one will ever go 162-0. So it's hard to watch your team punt games. It's hard to watch your team punt series. It's hard to watch your team throw Adam Mazier out there on the mound sometimes. Sometimes you got to do what needs to be done to play the long game, and not every fan is necessarily always cut out for the long game.
All right, let's turn the page a little bit, and we'll get some headlines from Paulie. It's time for the Reindl Report.
And get things started here with our today's edition of the Reindl Report.
Now tuned into the greatest.
Welcome to the Reindl Report with Paul Reindl.
Hi, Paul.
All right.
2 stories from the world of sports that we haven't gotten to yet.
We'll start off in Major League Baseball.
And 1 story that you didn't know you needed.
Are you laughing, biatch?
It's the Reindl Report.
Hey, Paul, how you doing? Okay, how are you?
On 97.3 The Fan.
Are you ready to bless the mood? I need some help, please.
That was good.
Can I get a yeah? Oh, yeah.
All right. Gentlemen, we'll start in the NFL. Update to a story we've been following just a little bit over the last few weeks and months. NFL league meetings yesterday. The big news was that Tom Brady was approved as a minority owner for the Las Vegas Raiders. Now, we talked about that earlier in the month because him being a Fox broadcaster, an NFL analyst now, if he were to be approved, which he now is, as a team owner, he's going to lose a lot of access to other teams that he covers. Typically, if him and Kevin Burkhardt are covering, Eagles, Browns this weekend, whatever, they have Zoom meetings. They sometimes go into the training facilities. They sit down with the quarterback, the coaches. Like, they are in the facilities. They're getting their notes together. They're following all the storylines. He ain't going to be able to do that anymore.
Right. I mean, yeah, they give broadcasters information going, don't say this until like after the fact, but here are some plays you can look for. I mean, you can hear it sometimes when you're watching a broadcast, like Troy Aikman or stuff. Like, he'll give you kind of a hint, like, oh, I'm kind of expecting, it could be a trick play here sort of thing. That's because they've been given heads up beforehand in those meetings during the week of what, what's going to be unfolding on the field. It helps them as broadcasters. But like if Robert Kraft all of a sudden was a broadcaster, they wouldn't let him into like the Jets team meetings and go, okay, well, let's, tell me all about your secret plays and everything, because he's an owner. So you can't do that in other teams. So yes, that is an issue for Tom Brady.
Yeah. Tom Brady,
So,
go ahead.
You just started this thing 6 weeks ago.
He's been working on the Raiders thing a lot longer than the last
but
6 weeks.
You're brand new in broadcasting, and I haven't heard much because like I said, I've been pretty checked out on the NFL. I heard his first game and it wasn't good. That's to be expected. It's your first game. Everybody's first game was probably terrible. How do you grow and do your job? In my opinion, I feel like you should have to do one or the other. Now, if you wanted to buy the Toronto Raptors, great, have a ball.
Sure.
Have a ball. Nobody cares. You're an owner of this. Oh, you want to buy a part of a baseball team? Great, have a ball.
Clark Hunt, the owner of Kansas City, said, I think a lot of owners around the league felt that this was a potential conflict. It's hard to know whether it will be an actual conflict, but it can be a potential conflict or a perceived conflict.
It's a perceived
Roger Goodell
conflict.
said Tom's been abiding by the issues that we raised through the committee voluntarily since he began broadcasting, so that's all been resolved. The restrictions will stay in place. Yeah. He's not allowed to roam around, the Seahawks
Jets
facility
practice,
or anything like that. He cannot do any of that. So
why would you even want to do the broadcast? I mean, the money that they're paying
$300 million
through the roof.
I don't even know if it's Tom. I think Fox still will say we just want the name.
Yeah.
He is what I've seen, he's really good at analyzing quarterback situations. Like, here's exactly what he saw here. Here's why he threw this in interception.
Okay.
He will add some valuable insight that other people probably won't be able to add. So, Fox is going to go, whatever. We'll whatever we can get, we can get. Now, are they overpaying for it? Probably. But.
Wouldn't you guys want one or the other? And which one would you want if it was you, Ben, or you, Paul? And same money. So Paul Reindl, $300 million to broadcast, or you're going to spend your own money, but you're going to own part of the Raiders. Which one would you guys want?
100%.
See, I'd want to be the broadcaster.
Would you?
Yeah.
Oh, God, not me. Sitting in the sitting in the luxury box every weekend having a ball.
I want someone paying me the big money, and all I have to do is, give my 2 cents on everything. When you're the owner, then you're responsible for everything.
Well, from the Raiders' point of view, Mark Davis, he met with reporters yesterday, and he said Tom is somebody that for many years I didn't like very much.
Yeah,
and he's
for sure.
referencing, the Tuck rule from the early 2000s. He goes, he did admit that it was a fumble, so those are important aspects of the situation. We're just really proud to have him as a partner. He's a competitor. He's a bright young man. Although Tom can't play, I think he can help us select a quarterback in the future and potentially train him as well.
Sure.
I mean,
it's interesting, man.
Pretty smart investment. All right.
Yeah, what a gig that is, the owner.
Yeah. Any level of ownership.
Any level.
That's what you want.
Yeah.
All right, we'll move on to baseball. We talked about the Tropicana State Field and the damage that it took in Hurricane Milton. Was that last week?
Last week.
The roof was like completely ripped apart and just torn off. I saw like fragments of the roof were found all over the area.
Yeah.
People were taking them and selling them and all of that. And it was awful. I mean, it was a site for first responders, a shelter spot for them, and the roof has just completely been torn apart. And now, I'm obviously naive. I saw that and I go, that's really bad. I didn't even think that this was going to take months, if not years, to repair.
Well, it's not only the time; it's 9 figures is what they're estimating that it's going to cost.
It's like a custom.
That means at least $100 million.
Yeah.
To repair this so that you can play baseball in April, if you're the Tampa Bay Rays, knowing you've also already been approved for a new stadium that they're going to build.
Yeah.
You're throwing $100 million into renovations. You can't do it.
And even if they wanted to, it won't be done.
It won't be ready
by opening day.
They
do not have a home
screwed.
now for 2025, and yeah, it's a custom Teflon coated like fiberglass roof. Like you said, at least $100 million. And even if they're like, oh, we got to do it, even though we're going to build the new one, like it won't be ready in time for next season.
You couldn't if you wanted to. So then it begs the question, where the hell are they going to play?
We're going to have 2 teams now in baseball playing in like minor league stadiums?
So a couple of options I saw were, I saw Durham, the Durham Bulls playing in Durham. So 2 teams, one in Sacramento, one in Durham. The Tampa Bay Rays playing in Durham. I don't know why Durham out of all of those facilities. It's just one thing that I saw.
AAA ballparks are the biggest of the minor league parks.
Is that the closest one to them?
That's, I think, fairly reasonably close.
Okay.
There's a lot of single A parks and spring training parks in
the Oakland Rays,
Florida.
You had the Oakland
that
A's.
idea.
How about the Oakland Rays?
Montreal Rays. They've been clamoring to get a team back since the Expos. I saw the San Juan Rays and playing in Puerto Rico, which is not that far away.
Ben and Wood's trip.
They've had
I love the Rays.
They've
I've
had
always
Major
loved the
League
Rays.
Baseball games with Hiram B. Thornton Stadium in Puerto Rico.
When do we play the Rays?
So there is certainly the possibility of moving them around.
So they said essentially too, you can't just leave the roof off. There's no drainage.
Right.
Why did they put no drainage in? Because they had a roof.
Well, and it
So there's no drainage.
wasn't just the roof that was impacted. I mean, building like parts of the building were damaged, offices were damaged. It really took a beating in that hurricane.
It rains way too much there. Hence why they had to put the roof on in the first place. So
right.
What a nightmare. Do we welcome them to San Diego?
Oh, like when the Padres are, they've already had the schedule out, so I can't imagine that would, unless you had to rework the entire Major League Baseball schedule, they can't share a Major League ballpark with someone else.
Especially across the country.
Yeah, that's not going to work. They need an empty stadium. I think it's probably
the Temecula
I
Rays.
think it's going to be hard for the players because ultimately they're probably going to have a number of different home stadiums, some in Durham, maybe go to San Juan, maybe play in your spring training complex a few times. Midweek games that weren't going to be that. How many fans were they getting in midweek games anyway?
4,200.
14,000 at most.
Right.
They could probably play a lot of their games just at their spring training park in Florida, in a lot of those games. Will they have to play some home games on the road? Probably.
Can I recommend Orange Glen High, Paulie, where we play the side of many Tier 1 games?
I love Orange Glen.
Simply the best.
London Rays.
No.
And you can do
Too
just
far.
an entire London
Bad idea.
home
Bad,
schedule.
horrible idea. Horrible.
Bad idea, Ben.
Mexico City Rays.
Maybe.
Seoul, Korea Rays.
That's a little bit of a piece. That's a little bit of a piece.
All right. And then finally, yesterday we talked about the Conquer Championships
Yes,
and all the scandal.
Chestnut cracking.
We compared it to everything that happened last year with the fishing scandal. Now I've got chess scandal. More chess scandal. You guys remember the story from maybe earlier this year?
It was earlier this year. The guy had something in his bum.
The Grand Master had
he had a little device.
A little toy.
In his bum.
In there, and he was getting
signals?
Signals via vibrations.
From who? I forget. Was it an AI or something that who was helping the guy who's supposedly the best guy in chess in the world be better at chess?
Jose Altuve was a pretty good hitter. He took some help.
Over at the
but it's not as though you have to steal any signs. The board is right in front of you.
Right.
You can see what everyone else can see. There's no
just telling you what the best move is.
Yeah, maybe they're putting it in a computer.
But isn't he the guy who should be telling other people who the best move was?
He's a fraud. He's a cheater.
If there was someone who was better, why aren't they just playing the chess game right there?
Well, he's got a computer.
Well, that's what I'm thinking. Is there a supercomputer telling him what to do?
So over at the Spanish Team Championships this week, a young man from the Ukraine, Kirill Shevchenko, he was disqualified, and it turns out that he was at least suspected of using a cell phone in the bathroom when he said he was going to go make a duty. He was actually on his phone using one of those computer softwares and figuring out his next move.
There's just a site you can go to that gives you the best moves. I'd be the best chess player in the world.
He left his seat again to go to the bathroom, and his opponent was like, I'm starting to get suspicious about this.
I need to go duty. I'll be right back. I'm right back.
And it says here, the cleaning service at the hotel where this championship tournament was being held, they found a mobile phone in the toilet of the hotel where everything was happening, and it said there was a note on it. It said, "Do not touch. Phone is for emergencies when guests need to make calls at night."
Brilliant.
Housekeeping saw that, and they raised questions, and they said, this is not supposed to be here.
This phone is not for chess. No chess on this phone. Yeah. Absolutely.
So they turned the phone in. It belonged to the kid that was disqualified, and now people are very upset.
You a chess player, Ben?
I did play. My kids played a little bit for a few years as well, but I have not played in many years, and I was never that good at chess.
I've never even tried. Never once.
Huh?
No. I tried. When I was like 10. Got into it a little bit. It's tough.
I understand how all the pieces move, and
I don't.
What you're trying to.
Somebody tried to explain it once, and my ADD.
The whole
no.
looking 4 or 5 moves ahead. Okay, he's going to do this. I'm going to do that.
I could play a game. I know what parts, how they move, but I wouldn't want to.
All right. Here's a question for you as we go to our break, and we can talk about this when we come back. If AI is so smart, and apparently it is, it can beat chess masters, who are the best in the world. Why wouldn't you just have AI manage your baseball game for you?
Good question.
And will a team try that at some point?
Do teams
are they
already doing it? I don't know. Interesting.
I bet you there's some use.
You've seen forever. They have we ran the simulation 10,000 times, and this team is going to win the World Series or whatever.
Wouldn't be hard to do if you were a baseball team. I mean, not hard at all. We will come back. We'll give away some of those concert tickets to Orville Peck as well. All next with Ben and Woods after traffic here on 97.3 The Fan.
Hamul Casino. Fun above all else.
All right, here we go.
Black 17 on.
That is my number.
All right, hit me.
Hamul Casino. Fun above all else.
So how many times do we hear over the course of the season, Mike Schultz explaining a decision, saying, that one of those 50-50 type calls that you have to make as a baseball manager. Do I bunt? Do I hit away? Do I switch my pitcher here? Do I stick with them? A lot of gut instincts that are involved in being a manager. Sometimes there are clear, like, all right, I know the numbers on this guy. I'm definitely playing the percentages. I'm going with that decision. But a lot of the time, even the numbers aren't that clear on something. But it's rarely exactly 50-50. Usually you can get, all right, in this case, if we ran it 1,000 times, 10,000 times, 52% of the time the right call would be to bring in this pitcher. 48% of the time it would be to bring in this other pitcher. What if you could guarantee that every single time you were making the call in favor of the 52% instead of the 48%? Not a huge difference, but over the course of 162 games, what if making that right call percentage-wise wins you 3 more games? over the course of the year.
3 games is a lot.
3 games is a lot over the course of the year. Could an AI manager, an absolute, like an algorithm that was written specifically for that purpose with the, supercomputer backing of the cloud, could they do a better job managing a game than the manager?
No.
At least the decision making.
Not in my opinion. I think there's things that go into managing that a computer can't know, and I like analytics a lot. I do, and I wish I knew more about how to hit when I was younger, and what was really important. I really feel like people of my generation, 49 years old is what I am right now. I really feel like we were taught to hit the wrong way our whole lives. I really do. I feel like every coach failed us. I feel like all of our dads, just working with the info that they had at the time. I feel like I was taught to pitch the wrong way. There's so much more now. Now, again, I don't know how much I would have delved into it, but I would like to know how fast I swing, and how I can work on to improve my swing speed and things like that, my bat path. All of these things were not a thing, man. But a lot of like Michael says in the chat, there's a lot of this going on in baseball now. Sure, that's what deeply analytical teams already do. But I think,
well, they prepare their manager to make what they
Correct.
believe are the statistically correct decisions. But I don't think any team that I know of has like a cell phone in the dugout that's telling you, all right, 52% this way. They have to make those decisions on their own, on the fly, which makes it different. I'm saying if you literally could have an iPad in the dugout, and every
Just
situation that comes up, you just plug in and you go, all right, 56% this way, I'm going with this decision. Now,
so what
and the manager may still be in charge of, hey, set the tone, you manage your personalities, you do all that. But in terms of the true, who do I pinch hit here? Do I call for a hit and run here or not? Do I call for a steal here or not? You are letting the computer make every single decision. Would your team be better off?
I don't know. I don't think so, because I think what you're not taking into account is, hey, you have a baby, you kept you up all night, you feel like you don't feel good, you got the flu potentially, you got a cough, your legs are weak, your knees hurting you, your groin hurts, your arm's killing you, whatever. I think the human element is why you have a manager.
Well, and I think ultimately, even if you could promise me my team was going to do better going by the computer's recommendations 100% of the time, that's not what competition or sports is. It's a human game.
Yeah,
and
for
that
sure.
involves also the coaches and the people who are making those decisions. You need to allow for that human aspect. I don't want to be right every time.
I really don't either.
I want to prove which guy is got the better instincts. And prepare him with all the numbers that you want. Give him that information that lets him, for the most part, go with what's statistically beneficial for his team. But you can't just have an artificial intelligence deciding.
No,
at that point, then every team will do it.
Unless they're robotic players. Then if you have robotic players,
then
then
it's a
they can
video.
do it.
It's kind of a video game at that point.
Yeah, and you it's funny, in a video game it'll show like guy's stamina. He's at 61%. In real baseball, you don't have the luxury of looking at a slider that tells you where they're at mentally, physically.
You probably could estimate it pretty well just based on like, hey, if the program was detailed enough. All right, he's played in 160 games. He's had these injuries. He's now operating at 82% efficiency from where he was before. You could estimate it.
How are things at home? How are things at home? Is he and his wife going at it? Is he in the middle of a divorce? Is she leaving him? What's happening in his head mentally? Where is he at? Is he in a great mood? Is he in a terrible mood? Does he want to be here today? Does he not want to be here today? There's all those things that the managers know. Somebody made a good point. If analytics was a thing in '88, Kirk Gibson probably does not bat there. In fact, Kirk Gibson's probably not on the roster. He had one at bat in that series. That's it, one. And he hit a home run and never batted again. So got your one swing out of him.
Not an efficient use of a
roster spot. Imagine if it was our team and we had one broken down player in the year 2024. Let's say in 5 years from now it's Manny and he's on one leg, and you're like, why is he on the roster? He can't play third, which is where his huge value is. Why is he on the roster? He may be able to pinch hit in a spot, and we'd lose our minds unless he did that. But yeah, you would never do it in the year 2024 and beyond. But
I mean, just because it worked for the Dodgers in 1988 doesn't necessarily mean
it was a good move. I know.
It was the right call.
I know.
Either.
It's crazy to think that, but
that's
yeah,
the thing.
It's crazy. But yeah, the intangibles of baseball is what keeps me coming back. I don't ever want it to be so robotic like that.
All right, how is Ethan Salas doing? He's at the Arizona Fall League, coming off a pretty good season. Not maybe the perfect season of minor league baseball, but pretty good season. We've got some sound for you coming up. First, though, we've got tickets to give away if you want to win a pair of tickets to Orville Peck at Cal Coast Credit Union Open Air Theater on Saturday, October 26th. You can call right now. Our third caller is going to win at 833-288-0973, 833-288-0973. Limited tickets for Orville Peck remain at Ticketmaster.com, and we'll come back with Ethan Salas next year on 97.3 The Fan. Now to Orville Peck to Steve. Congratulations, Steve. I just saw a concert-related tweet here from guy I follow, have met a few times. Becker says, I went to a Newfound Glory concert last night. There was a dude who was there only to crowd surf. He must have done it like 10 times, and he wasn't a light dude either. Have you ever crowd surfed, Woods?
I'm trying to think.
Paulie?
No.
Never crowd surfed? I feel like I'm way too big to be the subject of crowd
Looks
surfing.
like Jack Black in School of Rock, where he jumps off and they all just clear out and bam.
I've moshed before
Moshed.
at a Metallica show.
Now what technically is moshing? Is it just like jumping up and down in a group of a lot of people?
Jump in,
yeah.
get in there, and you're like, oh, ow, ow.
That's a little more intense than I was expecting.
It's aggressive.
I'm actually going to be a little sore for
It's
a couple of
aggressive.
days after that. Hi, everybody.
It's very aggressive, but I was like 16.
It like moves in a circle. And
Yeah,
they
and
just
you
kinda
run
throw
your
each
turn,
other.
and then you just like beat the crap out of each other.
Really?
Yeah, it's cool.
That's moshing.
Yeah.
Just thought it was really enthusiastic dancing.
No,
but
no,
it's
no,
more
no,
than
no.
that.
It's it's
I
hard not to take offense too. Like you're all there for the same reason you love this band. But it's also hard to be like, hey, you crossed the line there, buddy.
If I was at a show, I don't think I'd want the responsibility of having to make sure like that person is being passed
Now,
along
I
all
have
the way
done
down
that. I've pushed
to the front. Now,
Yes.
do you push them back or forward? How does crowd surfing usually work? Do you start at the back
so
or
you
the front?
try to get them out of the way. So sometimes what they'll do is like they'll try to surf their way to the front. But there's also been bands that let you come up on stage
and leave from the stage, jump in, and then take you to the back.
You pass
and
them back into the side. So it really depends on where you're at.
Maybe next time we have a big tier 1 event and we have we had at 7 Mile or Rick's Baja Cantina. We can finish the show from and crowd surf out into our tier 1s.
I don't want to hurt anybody. We probably have to sign, we probably have to sign like documents.
Mostly me. I don't want to.
Hey, there's no moshing allowed. Hey, no crowd
Insurance
surfing.
won't allow it.
Dude, yes. I tend to agree with that.
How do the concerts get insurance for this?
I don't
as well?
know. I don't know.
How come we don't hear about lawsuits involving crowd surfing all the time? Seems like it would be rife for lawsuits.
I saw a video yesterday of Fugazi playing like 1980 something in D.C. And the band is on stage, and there's just fans on stage with them, and they're jamming. Fans are diving into the drums, they're diving into the amps, they're diving into the crowd. And maybe 16, 17-year-old me would have been like, hell yeah, man, let me get on this. 49-year-old me was just filled with anxiety. I was like, this looks like the worst thing I've ever seen.
Adam in the chat says, people still moshing. It's stupid. I witnessed a girl get clocked in the head. She wasn't even involved.
Oh.
She ended up dying a couple of days later due to a head injury. This was at SDSU. Okay, well, that just brought the whole conversation to a sad, sad ending.
Okay.
That's
trying to have a lighthearted conversation.
Sad trombone.
Shout
out to his family. Her family.
Shout out to her family. I couldn't do it now. I'll tell you that. I don't even like when there's like a huge crowd around me at a show. I'm just like, I'll sacrifice my spot.
Crowd surf on your back, right?
You can do both.
You can crowd surf on your front.
Yeah, you can do
See,
both.
now I'd be worried about
People grabbing
inappropriately
your
touching
dong. Yeah, I know.
parts and stuff. Either way, just seems like it would be uncomfortable and not really that much fun.
It does. It's never seemed cool to me either. Like, I think there would be something to. I think it'd be kind of cool if everyone's into it and the band let you come on stage and you got to run off the stage. Yeah, I think that'd be kind of cool.
Like a trust fall.
But you're not going to go on your back. You're going to go front so you
Forward.
can maneuver your landing. I think.
I guess. I don't know. I don't think you have much control at that point. Once you've left your feet, it's up to other people how you land and where you're going.
Calvin says he moshed at a Rage Against the Machine concert back in the day. It was wild. Yeah, this Metallica show I was at was nuts. It was on the floor of Texas Stadium. It was about 110 degrees, and it just got out of control. It was just bananas, and you're looking over your shoulder, and it's just it's a young man's game. I do feel. Wouldn't it be weird if I at 49 was like, oh yeah, I got in the mosh pit this weekend? Like, you're a dad, dude. What are dads doing in the mosh pit? But it's different. It's different. Nate says people definitely move out of the way now. You would face plant for sure. Oh, that's good. FAS Shipping and Receiving says, I was in a mosh pit at the 90s at Hollywood Palladium. Some guy was stabbing people with a small pocket knife while moshing.
Ah, see? There you go.
Very cool.
All right, let's check traffic when we come back. We got some audio was sent to me from an Ethan Salas appearance yesterday.
That's one guy I don't want to see moshing
at all.
Or stage diving in the near future.
And we'll set that up right after traffic here on 97.3 The Fan.
From the 97.3 The Fan Traffic Center, here's Kelly Danick.
Traffic is sponsored by Ulta Beauty. Well, after a very busy morning, things are finally starting to wind down on our roads. We do have reports of a stalled car on northbound 15 before Balboa. That is in the center divide. The Emerald City came to Ulta Beauty with wicked collaborations from REM Beauty by Ariana Grande, It Brushes for Ulta and OPI. Hurry in, these fantabulous products won't last long. See Wicked November 22nd, only in theaters. Ulta Beauty, the possibilities are beautiful. I'm Kelly Danick with Ben and Woods, San Diego's #1 sports station, 97.3 The Fan.
So, yeah, I got sent this YouTube clip yesterday. It was the Hot Sheet guys from Baseball America. And they had a chance to chat with Ethan Salas, who's currently competing in the Arizona Fall League with some of his Padres fellow prospects and doing pretty well. Defensively, looks sharp. His OPS is like over 880 or something. He's having a nice little fall, and they got to catch up with him about how the AFL is going for Ethan Salas and just some general stuff. So we thought we'd bring it to you, Padres fans.
Did you follow the playoffs, by the way? I know obviously you're not up with the big league club yet, too.
Yeah,
but did you follow what just happened? What'd you think?
Yeah, it was a rough ending, but the boys, they played hard and they showed out, so I thought it was pretty good.
Yeah, it was
so
fun.
Ethan,
fun team to follow there. Go ahead, JJ.
Yeah, so Ethan, you've had a long season, and I say that, catchers, obviously it's the hardest job in baseball. Here you are, you keep it going. You're doing the Arizona Fall League. How's it gone, do you feel like, for you so far? But I guess even more importantly, where are you hoping to get out of your month in the AFL?
Yeah, no, I've long year definitely. Body's holding up really good. I feel really strong. Just gonna go keep playing. Just really excited for this extra month of baseball. Obviously, I finished the year strong, and I just wanted to keep carrying that on. And yeah, just bring it into the Fall League, come with the same confidence, the same drive, and the same love for the game that I had at the end of the year, and just go keep performing, keep having fun, try to win.
Like you said, you kind of had a strong finish. Did it feel like it's like, hey, I'm glad that this isn't ending yet, that I'm, that I can keep kind of my 24 going?
Exactly. Yeah, that was my exact thought process. I was like, dang, I started getting hot towards the end of the year, and I was like, dang, why does the season have to end now? We can't just keep playing, but it is what it is. And thankfully I have this extra month of games, and just going to come out, meet all the guys, and just to keep enjoying the games and having fun with it.
Hey, have you gotten to speak to some of the big leaguers on this current Padres team? And if so, who? And, anything specific that you can point out that you guys have talked about? Obviously, there's quite a few big name players on that ball club.
Yeah, no, I haven't talked to a lot of the guys. I talked to Jackson a little bit the other day. No, just catching up. He's probably going to come out here and watch a couple of the games, but no, just talking to him a little bit, just catching up. Nothing really too into depth.
It's very dynamic.
So Ethan, I'm old. I remember a little bit, but seeing your dad play in Macon many years ago, and you grew up in a baseball family. What was that like, kind of coming up? Having having a dad, having a brother also, but having a family where there's others who kind of know the path, who kind of know what you're going through.
It's huge. It's really good because I can learn from them and talk with them about their experiences because they've gone through what I've been going through, and not just having those people there who get you and are there to talk baseball with you. I think it's really good, and we just pick each other's brains and learn from each other's experience. And yeah, I mean, that's been a huge part for me, just picking their brains and how can we all help each other, because we've all been through the same process. So I think that helps a lot. It's a big advantage I have.
So Ethan, you see, you're around him a little bit last year in spring training and your time in big league camp. You see Jackson Merrill break camp, go on to have all the success and kind of become one of the guys in the lineup, both in the regular season and also have a lot of success in the postseason. How does that, excite, encourage, motivate you as you continue to climb through pro ball and, you see a homegrown talent from, the Padres system be able to contribute in such a, I guess, productive way for the big league club?
Yeah, I know it's exciting. It just shows like how fast things happen in baseball. I was with them on the same team last year in AA, and like things can just happen so fast. So it kind of goes to show like you're not really that far away, no matter like what level you're at. And I'm just really excited just to get up there, obviously, and contribute in the way he has, and just the energy that he's brought to that clubhouse and stuff he's taught me. Just being around him it shows, and I'm glad that he got to show it this year in the big leagues and have a huge impact. So, yeah.
What did you think, Ethan, when you saw that he was going to be playing in center field for San Diego in spring training? We were all like, wow, I mean, that's interesting. Let's see how it goes. And then it looks like he's been doing it for a long time. Maybe easier for you to be able to say, hey, I knew he was going to be good wherever. But, I mean, it's just so rare to see a rookie infielder go to the outfield and play among, the best center field we saw this year.
Yeah, no, I saw him at the end of the year in AA last year, and he was working, like taking reps in left field and stuff. But you can tell he's a good athlete. San Diego does a really good job at like finding good athletes and keeping them athletic, not just sticking them to one position and stuff. So, yeah, it was no shock. Dude's a freak athlete, and I think he can do it anywhere on the field, honestly. So.
That's Ethan Salas on the hot sheet. You can, if you want to listen to the rest of it, you can go and find them at Baseball America and subscribe. But I think it's important to remember, because I've seen, comments, he's a little on the dry side. Well, he's 18 years old. Turned 18 this summer. It's remarkable that, imagine your 18-year-old. I have a 19 and a 21-year-old. I can't imagine them living on their own in a minor league baseball season, with a bunch of guys who are all older than he is. Remember, he's the youngest guy in his league at high single-A Fort Wayne, doing this all summer. And then, okay, now you're going to go to Arizona. You're going to play in the fall league against some of the top prospects. You're going to be doing these interviews with, Baseball America. It's asking a lot of kids these ages. And we know, well, we got a big signing bonus. He has to prove it. He has to do a lot. Doesn't accelerate your timeline at all just because you sign for, $5 million in the international free agent market. You're still 18 years old. You're still a kid and trying to navigate all that means while also having the responsibility of trying to develop as a baseball player with that pressure.
Not only as a baseball player, as a catcher. Just a completely different level of responsibility at the big league level. It's just a completely different level. There's just, you third baseman, great, go play third. Catch it, we need you to hit. We need you to hit for power. We need you to be extremely good at blocking balls. You need to be able to call a good game. You need to be able to work with 12, 13, 14, maybe 20 different pitchers in the course of a season. It's just different. It's funny, though. I have people in the chat going, yeah, this is like asking almost any 17 or 18-year-old about their life. How was your day? It's fine. It's good. What'd you do at school today? Not much.
What'd you learn about?
What'd you learn? I don't remember.
Mom, stop asking me so many questions.
Yeah. Hey, Bo is 6.
Just try to take an interest in your life. That's all.
Bo is 6 years old. How was school? Fine. What'd you do? No, I don't know. Played. Who'd you play with? I don't even remember. Wesley. I don't know. What did you learn about today? I don't even remember. All right, cool, man. Well,
good talk.
Good talk. See you at dinner. I mean, what in the world?
Ethan definitely comes from the Kyle Higashioka school of vocal inflection and range, which is
I'm very
to
excited.
say almost none.
It's cool.
Just maybe a good
Never
sign.
thought I'd be World Series MVP. It feels really good.
I'm mostly excited to join the big league club and bring my level of intensity and enthusiasm to what they already have in that clubhouse.
I thought the end though about Jackson Merrill and knowing this guy was my teammate. Minutes ago, essentially.
Yeah,
and now
dude.
He's probably Rookie of the Year, and
I can get
had
there.
this amazing season, and it happened just like that for him. So, anyway, thanks for that, and thanks for the show today, guys. Good job as always, Tier 1s. Thank you so much. For Paul Reindl and Stephen Woods, I'm Ben Higgins. Annie and Elston coming up next. We'll talk to you tomorrow morning at 6 a.m. right here on San Diego's #1 sports station, 97.3 The Fan. So long, everybody.